Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming at you on a Monday. Hope everybody had an outstanding and safe weekend, and we appreciate you reconvening with us on a 4-hour edition of 580 Sports Talk on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, and online at 580WIBW.com. Coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. We are so glad you are spending some of your Monday afternoon with us, and we have got plenty to get to on this Monday edition of the show. I am Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski's across the table. Hi, Brendan.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's been a while since I've been in here, but I'm glad to be in here. We've got tons to get to today. Obviously, a lot of positivity for the most part with the Royals to get to. I'm excited. Happy to be here. Happy to be back. There are some things behind the scenes that are changing a little bit for yours truly, taking on some more stuff at work. So, last week was just kind of a mess, but I'm glad to be here. Glad to be with you. Glad to be with you guys. Trenton, you as well on the other side of the glass. And very happy to be here for Sports Talk today.
So that's Brendan. I'm Dan. You know us. Trenton Craxner across the glass. He's in Trenton Cam on the live video stream, about which more in a second if you are unfamiliar. And this is your three-man power trio for the majority of today's program. Spencer Dupuis will be in a little bit later on as well. And like we said, we've got lots to get to coming off of this sports weekend and heading into Big 12 Media Days. I'm going to keep it real with you. It is disappointing not to be at Big 12 Media Days. The move from Dallas to Vegas made it a little prohibitive for it to happen for us this year. We are hopeful to be in Las Vegas for the 2025 Big 12 Media Days. Although who knows if there'll be a Big 12? Who knows if there'll be a 2025? Let's be honest. Who knows if there'll be a Las Vegas? Because it might melt. Because it's 120 degrees in Las Vegas today. And when I saw that was the case, I decided that I was very glad to be in Topeka, Kansas, and not Las Vegas, Nevada.
It also made a whole lot more sense why every media person we know from the state of Kansas had their flights delayed or just outright canceled to get to Las Vegas.
Yes, the tarmacs are probably in some sort of melting type condition. Las Vegas at 120 degrees sounds like literally hell. Like literally,
correct.
Like the biblical definition of hell. Las Vegas, Nevada, 120 degrees. So we are not there. The next 2 days, Big 12 Media Days, will be there. We'll hear from Brett Yormark and Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold, and we'll have that audio for you coming up over the next couple of days. But we'll preview Big 12 Media Day a little bit today as we discuss the state of the Big 12 going into Media Days, what we've heard from Brett Yormark the last couple of years, what we maybe expect to hear from him tomorrow. Also, we've tiered the Big 12 head football coaches for a second consecutive year. Myself, Brendan, Trenton, we have put together our Big 12 coaching tiers. We'll see where we agree, where we disagree, and who we think ought to access a particular job website, because many of us made the same jokes in our coaching tiers in the process of putting these together. So that is coming up a little bit later on, but we'll talk plenty of Big 12 football today. We'll also talk plenty of Royals. Yesterday's 10-1 Royals loss rescued this from being a very awkward edition of 580 Sports Talk, because if I had to come in here and pretend I was real sad about the Rockies sweeping the Royals, that might have been a little difficult for me, to be completely honest. I sort of found out over the weekend that my loyalty still lies with the team that I have literally rooted for not my entire life, their entire life, their entire existence. The Colorado Rockies. Certainly did not anticipate a Rockies series win. In fact, was quite confident of the opposite outcome. But the Royals offense spit the bit Friday and Saturday. And we will discuss if maybe that has changed how the Royals prioritize what they want to go do at the trade deadline, because resources are limited for the Royals. It's just the nature of the beast when you have one of the lowest ranked farm systems in all of baseball. You can only go out and buy so much, and the Royals may be forced into a choice as to what it is that they want to go target. And maybe offense is the more dire need than the bullpen. Maybe we learned that this weekend when they went out and scored 3 runs in the first 2 games of the series in Denver against 2 soft-tossing left-handers that do not miss bats. it was a bit of a DEFCON situation now, I think, for the Royals offense coming out this weekend. But there were some glimmers of hope after Sunday. They did put 10 runs on the board. An even softer tossing left-hander proved to be the cure for what ailed some of these guys, at least late in the game. And the return of Chris Bubich is worth celebrating, and we will bring that up. Also, we're celebrating 4 All-Stars for the boys in blue. Man, shout out to the selection group, the players, the managers. They got it right with both Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans going to the All-Star game. That's
Correct.
pretty excellent. So we will discuss that. And Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be in the Home Run Derby. First Royal to be in the Derby since Moustakas?
I'm pretty correct.
I'm pretty sure.
Sal was in it. Because remember they...
Sal was in it, 2021, right?
Yeah, because Pete Alonso put up an historic performance instead of showing Sal have a pretty legendary performance himself. They just showed Pete Alonso, who... His Super Bowl is the Home Run Derby. If you can't tell, I just can't stand Pete Alonso.
Not a fan of
I
the
don't
polar
think you're
bear.
alone in that. I think he really rubs people the wrong way. He is the 5th, by the way. Bobby Witt is the 5th Royal to participate in the Derby, the first in Salvi. Can you name the other 3?
Well, Moustakas, that was when it was in Miami. It was the year he hit the year he broke the record. So 2018? 17. Okay.
Then there were 2 others.
2 other. Billy Butler in 2012 when it was in Kansas City?
Nope.
Not Billy Butler.
Not Billy Butler.
Infamous Robinson Cano snub.
That yes.
And he got booed deservedly
right.
for going 10 outs, no home runs.
They didn't. That's
what a
right.
bum.
They didn't put a Royal in the Home Run Derby that year, and everybody ganged up on poor Robinson Cano, and he didn't hit a home run. That is an all-time great Home Run Derby moment. The others, Bo never got around doing it, right? Did he?
Bo Jackson, 1989.
Okay, yeah, I didn't remember if it went that far back.
And then 1 Royal 2 years later.
1 Royal in 1991, Danny Tartable?
Danny Tartable.
All right.
Those are your 5.
All right.
Bobby Witt Jr. joining an elite group of Kansas City Royals to play in the Derby.
Plenty of discussion about the all-star rosters coming up. Lots of Royals baseball to get to on today's program. Plus all the other things you've come to know and expect from a Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, will join us at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. We talked a lot last week about the Chiefs secondary, getting a lot of love. Joshua Williams in particular. We're going to ask Matt his thoughts on the Chiefs secondary, his thoughts on whether or not there will be a long-term resolution to the T. Higgins saga, as they're a week away from having to make a decision on that because he's a franchise tag player, and some other topics from the world of the National Football League. We'll get Matt's thoughts. He joins us at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour in the Fleming Place Wine Spirits Hotline. We'll give you the good, bad, ugly from the weekend. We'll have our first round of what is wrong with you for the week, our sports headlines at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, and plenty more on the show. Again, you can join us on the video live stream today on our YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Subscribe today if you have not already. We love seeing that number of subscribers go up. All it costs you is a click. This is not a pledge drive. We do not have tote bags or anything to give away yet. I keep mentioning tote bags. I make the same joke like once every 3 months. I'll make the same joke about tote bags, and hoping maybe someone would hear it and hook us up with some tote bags. But we don't have any yet.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to, I'll take a bag.
If anybody would make us a 580 Sports Talk tote bag, we'd be all in. We do, however, appreciate that you subscribe, and certainly appreciate that you watch along on the YouTube stream and participate in the YouTube live chat as well. It's a great place to hang out, interact with other listeners, and, of course, interact with us during the program. You can also watch the video stream on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk on Twitter, and on Facebook, WIBW News. And, of course, the Top City Metal Supply text line is open for business today as well. Today and every day, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. Get your thoughts in, especially Royals fans want to hear how you're feeling after a weekend of baseball that even Mr. Positivity Rex Hudler on the postgame show Saturday night referred to as uninspired. And that is not a word that we get, and not a sentiment.
That's as mean as he'll ever be.
Yes.
To the Royals.
To the Royals, yes. It was one thing for him to refer to the pitchers who had shut the Royals down for 2 straight games at that point. Kyle Freeland on Friday night for Colorado and Austin Gomber the next night. It was one thing for Rex to refer to those two as mediocre because that's accurate. Like no lies detected there.
Yeah, go check the stats.
But
check the reputation.
But yes, to refer to it as uninspired baseball, I think was a fairly accurate accounting of things. Losing a series to the Rockies in 2024, even in Denver, is decidedly not what you want. And that is what the Royals ended up doing over the weekend. A 4-2 loss on Friday. John Schreiber, it is past time for him to become Johnny Low Leverage. He was awful. He gave up the 2 runs that decided the game in the 8th inning after a strong Cole Reagan start was matched pitch for pitch by the aforementioned Kyle Freeland. And then the Royals got the tying runs aboard immediately in the 9th inning against the woeful Rockies bullpen. And then Garrett Hampson tried to bunt. He tried to bunt the 3-0 pitch. And he no, not what you want. He ended up striking out. It was really poor at bats after the first 2 had reached. So the Royals let that opportunity get away against a bullpen that's just trying to give away games on a night in, night out basis. They lose that game 4-2. The next night, they can't get anything going off of Austin Gomber, and they lose that game 3-1. Strong outing from Seth Lugo, even given the handicap at which Lugo is working when he goes and pitches in Denver at altitude. Seth Lugo's Mr. Spin. He spins the ball better than just about any pitcher in baseball, particularly his curveball. Well, any physicist will tell you that the altitude diminishes spin. So Seth Lugo, by his own nature as a pitcher, is not going to be at his best. He's not going to have his best stuff available to him pitching at 5,280 feet above sea level. And even still was able to battle through that, give a quality start, 3 runs allowed in 6 innings. Typically, that's good enough to win a game in Denver. It was not, because the Royals, again, only scratched out the Vinny Pasquantino home run on Saturday. Now, yes, Sunday was positive. 10 runs. Michael Garcia, batting out of the 8-hole in the lineup, not the leadoff spot, went deep. That was big for him. Home run for MJ Melendez as well. 2 struggling guys that really needed a moment like that. Both home runs, gotta say, pretty Coorsy, pretty altitude-y.
Yeah.
Probably not home runs at the K, but you know what? They all count the same on the stat sheet. And I think it's important to see both of those guys get a confidence boost. And maybe that 10-run outburst is a shot of momentum going into these final 5 games before the All-Star break. But I think broadly, Brendan, that this series offered pretty firm proof that the Royals lineup simply is not deep enough to really sustain a 162-game push at this point. They're just not getting enough from anybody who isn't named Bobby, Vinny, or Salvi.
You and I, Dan, just got a text from former co-host of Mic'd Up as well as 580 Sports Talk, Fulton Caster, that reads, bunting in a 3-0 count should be cause for an immediate release from the team. The Royals are in a position, and this is not ever a spot you want to be in, but they're in a position where if they don't get perfection from the starting lineup, more often than not, I would say they are not going to win a game. Like, they need greatness every single pitcher, every single time through the rotation. You can't live like that. Like, you need to be able to pick someone else up. That is when the Royals have been the best versions of themselves this year, when they've been able to play, talk about it in football all the time, right? Complementary football. They need to be able to play complementary baseball to be good. And frankly, everybody does. Otherwise, you end up like the Tigers, who are the most extreme example of what the Royals have been this year. Their starting pitching is great. You know what else the rest of their team is? Basura. It is terrible. They are good. So bad. And they are below 500. They're, I think, 6 games below 500 at this point this season. The Royals are a better version of that, but with the number of deficiencies they have in the lineup, they need Lugo to be great every single time. They need Reagans to be great every single time out. The same with Singer, the same with Waka, and frankly, at this point, the same thing with Alec Marsh. They are not deep enough.
And to that point, the same with the bullpen. You are giving the bullpen zero margin for error, and that's hard enough on a good bullpen. We've established the Royals don't have one of those. No. So the stress test on this group of relievers could not be higher, because you're asking the bullpen to throw shutout baseball night in and night out. I know, and you know, and we all remember the HDH glory days extremely fondly. That is not the rule A bullpen like that is the exception. Even for a good team, that's the exception. So to ask the bullpen to work with no net, night in and night out, that makes it even more difficult and frankly contributes to the struggles of some of those guys. If they know they have to go out and be perfect and they can't let anything up, that makes their jobs harder.
A quick aside. In the last 2 months, since May 3rd, John Schreiber has pitched in 24 games. The Royals have a 14-10 record in those games, which is somewhat surprising. He himself is 1-3 with 1 save, 3 blown saves. He's pitched 20 innings. A reliever who, now that we have moved beyond the loogie, like the role of the loogie is kind of gone in baseball.
You have
the guy who comes in just to get lefties or just to get righties.
Right.
You never want to have fewer innings pitched than games appeared in if you're going to be a key reliever for a team. ERA 7.20 in the last 2 months. 24 games, an ERA of 7.20 for John Schreiber. Opponents on base percentage plus slugging, the old OPS, 888. Every player with an OPS that good made it to the All-Star game except one, except for Brent Rooker. He's the only one who didn't make it to the All-Star game. He's only got 1 All-Star. It wasn't Brent Rooker. He is allowing every opposing batter in the last 2 months to be an all-star or Brent Rooker, who's been pretty good himself.
Put another way, the second best hitter on the Royals.
Yeah, like he'd be
the Royals
batting
only have
third.
one guy better than that.
Yeah, he'd be batting third every day. He'd bump Vinny and Sal down in the order the way, or shoot, he might hit leadoff. That guy might be your leadoff batter for this Royals team right now. You need to find something, and this is both a pro and a con if you're the Royals, and you can spin it however you want. They have enough holes in this order right now, not the true devastating black holes of recent years, but still guys who you could certainly and fairly easily replace. The downward trend, the negative spin here is, oh my God, there are so many holes. Even if we fill one, there are still more that we need to fill. The positive spin is, no matter what kind of bat we can go afford, we can go find a place for them. If we find someone who is best hitting 5 times a game and hitting in the 1 spot, well, we can add that guy and have a use for him. If we need a middle of the order bat, if we need a bottom of the order bat, we can find use for all of those guys. Right now, you've got, 3 guys who are untouchable where they currently are. I know Salvi is struggling. You're not moving Salvi out of the lineup. You're not moving Vinny out of the lineup, even though he's been up and down. And obviously, you're not moving Bobby Witt Jr. That's 1, and then 5 through 9 that you can find reasonable replacements for. That should be something you can, and I'd love to get multiple bats. I don't think you're going to. I'd love to get multiple guys moved into this order who can make a positive impact for you. So you're going to find someone who can change things for the better. Is it going to be enough to accomplish what you thought you might be able to accomplish at the start of the year when you were super hot? Who's to say? But you need to find something because this is untenable.
Let me ask the question. Who are the tough outs in the Royals lineup? I don't mean the good hitters. Trenton, you help us answer this question. I don't mean the good hitters, because it's one thing to be a good hitter. Like Bobby Witt Jr. is an excellent hitter. Going to the All-Star game, deserves it. Salvador Perez, good hitter. Vinny Pasquantino is a good hitter. Who are the tough outs? Who are the guys that are hard to pitch to in this Royals lineup?
Maybe Vinny. And I'd argue Freddie Fermin, and he's not even an everyday bat. But Fermin goes up there and just battles. Like, this is my last career at bat. I better do something. Like, he battles.
The mindset of a backup catcher.
Yeah, he doesn't even get out of the box. He swings right back to his stance. He's ready to go again. Freddie Fermin should be playing almost every day.
So,
but at the same time, to build on that, Trenton, like Freddie Fermin has been over the last season and a half kind of a revelation. Like, no one expects a backup catcher or your part-time starting fielding catcher to hit like that. So that's been a plus. But I think everyone would fairly tell you Freddie Fermin is not exactly like a sleeping giant of an offensive threat, right? No one is thinking, oh man, once he figures it out consistently, that dude's going to mash. No, I think we have seen the peak form of Freddie Fermin, which is actually a nice player, nicer player than I ever would have expected out of him. But that's not a good thing when you're talking about overall roster construction. If Yeah, I mean, Freddie Fermin's turned into a nice piece. Like, that's not good. You do not want to be in that spot. You need to find more guys who battle, more guys who are going to make pitchers work, or at the very least, more guys who you say, well, you better make it count because he can punish you. And the Royals just don't have those dudes.
So this is not the only way to measure such a thing when we talk about tough outs, but the league average walk rate for a hitter is 8.2% of your at bats. You're drawing a walk. That's not often. That's not even like, one walk every 10, it's one. It's not real good. The elite guys, the guys who walk a ton, they're usually above 10. You might see 11, 12. It's not the only way to measure being a tough out, because there are other ways to be a tough out than to draw a walk. But that is indicative of how long your at-bats are going, how deep into the count you're getting, if you're making pitchers work, if you're stressing an opposing starter or an opposing reliever. The league average walk rate, 8.2%. There are only 2 active qualifying Royals who have a better than league average walk rate. Can you name them?
Better than league average walk rate? Probably not. Bob?
No.
Vinny's got to be one of them.
Vinny is one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Hunter Renfroe?
Hunter Renfroe is the other.
He's been really good the last 2 months.
Hunter Renfroe actually the team leader in walk rate among qualified batters. Now, Adam Frazier and Nick Lofton are both above that threshold. Lofton actually draws a walk every 12% of his plate appearances, which is why I have understood the Royals' compulsion to give him a run in the leadoff spot and see what happens. But he hasn't hit he doesn't have a hit in a month.
Yeah.
He does, but it doesn't feel like it.
No.
So there's a reason that hasn't worked. Like I said, that's not the only way to measure being a tough out, but this team's best hitters, Witt, Perez, those are your 2 most dangerous guys. They are not guys who are going to grind out a whole bunch of long at bats. You don't make starters work as a result of that. And that allows guys who are going good to get deeper into a game. So you don't have to see as much of the worst bullpen in baseball, which was the case this weekend. You go into Colorado, you think we're going to get the starter out of the game by the 5th, and we're going to get into that bullpen, which is total cheeks, and we're going to score 8 runs a night. Well, Kyle Freeland only needed 89 pitches to go 7 innings on Friday night.
You're not going to win in Denver at Coors Field if you're only forcing the opposing starter to throw 89 pitches, unless he throws 89 pitches in 4 innings.
Right. And that is a lot more common for Rocky starters. Austin Gomber, 99 pitches in 7 innings on Saturday. Now, Sunday, when the Royals are facing a rookie, Tanner Gordon. I didn't know who the hell Tanner Gordon was. I didn't know he was going to start on Sunday. I root for that team. I don't know who this guy is. Okay. He pops up, makes his big league debut, pitches into the 7th, and he takes the loss. He gives up the home runs to Garcia Melendez. It wasn't a great outing for him. You know how many pitches he threw in 6 1/3 innings, giving up 5 runs? 78.
Jeez.
Like, you're up there hacking at everything at that point, and it just doesn't give you a chance. But when the Royals did get into the bullpen in the 7th inning that time for a change, they were able to get to Justin Lawrence, who can't get anybody out, and Ty Block, who doesn't throw as hard now as he did in high school. And you can trust me on that because he's a Denver kid, and my brother was in the same high school class. Like, the guys who stink. And Block gave up the 3-run home run to Bobby Witt Jr. there in the top of the 9th inning. So the Royals are just not making other teams work very hard to get them out right now. And that is, I think, the simplest way I can put what I think is the biggest problem for them, is that they are not hard to pitch to, and they are not hard as a lineup to get out. And that, in turn, as you laid out, puts a ton of pressure on your starting pitchers, a ton of pressure on your bullpen. Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo are both deserving all-stars.
Agreed.
They have been awesome. Front to back. Very few dud outings from either of those guys. The Royals are 2 games over 500 in the games they start.
Not good. That's not good enough.
No, not remotely.
I'm not saying anything that's breaking news here, but you can't live like that. You need to help out your guys more than that. Again, otherwise you become what the Tigers are this year, and that's not where you want to be.
Yes, because what that is out of contention. And the Royals are not there yet. Like, this is not we're not doing the it's so over, we're so back. Shout out to our guy Fulton. We're not riding the Fuller coaster today.
No.
Like, they're a game and a half out of a playoff spot with so much baseball left to play.
The roller caster, I believe it was.
Was it the roller caster? I thought it was a Fuller coaster. Man, those are good times. We're not doing
Not
that
for the
today.
Royals.
The Royals are still very much a part of this wild card mix. We do not come to bury Caesar today. But we don't really come to praise them either, because this was not a good week. This was 2-4. You had a winnable home series. You had an extremely winnable road series, and you went 2-4. And now these final 5 games going into the break get all that much more important. You've got to go to St. Louis and get at least one, and you've got to win that series in Boston. The importance of that series, because that's the team. The Royals are now a game and a half behind for a wild card spot. That series just grew in importance.
And you know who the Royals are lining up in that weekend series?
They're
Cole
best
Reagans,
guys.
Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer has a 2.93 ERA. Who would have thought that, Mister? Well, he's a really good bad starter. Or he's a really bad good starter.
Yeah.
Has the 8th best ERA in all of baseball.
Speaking of efficiency, only needed 86 pitches to get through 7 innings yesterday. It was like the really good Brady Singer outings all looked like that. A strikeout per 9, couple of double plays behind him. Really, really good from Brady Singer to help salvage a game. There were some other good things, too, from the weekend for the Royals. We're going to talk about those on the other side of this first time out. We're just getting started on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. .235 on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Dan, Brendan, Trenton with you. Spencer will be along later on. We have you until 6 o'clock tonight. We have you until 6 o'clock throughout the week, and then we will give way on Tuesday and Wednesday to the Royals Baseball Network, Friday as well, as the Royals head out on the rest of their road trip to conclude the unofficial first half of the Major League Baseball season. 2 games in St. Louis Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 in Boston over the weekend prior to the All-Star break. And in case you missed it, the Royals will have 4 participants at the Midsummer Classic, which ties a franchise single-season record. As expected, Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr. selected as position players. As expected, Seth Lugo named to the pitching staff. Unexpected, but undeniably correct. Cole Reagans is also an all-star. And you look at just the superficial stuff. Reagans isn't having as good a year as Lugo. He's got fewer wins. Lugo's got 11 wins, leads the American League. He's 11-3, ERA in the 2s. Reagans 5-6, ERA in the 3s. We've moved past those numbers as the only method for understanding who's good.
Yeah.
You look at the rest of Cole Reagans' stat line, and I said this on Twitter last night. Seth Lugo is the most valuable pitcher for the Royals in terms of the value he's offered. Wins above replacement, like the raw value numbers. Seth Lugo has been the most valuable pitcher for the Royals. Cole Reagans is their best pitcher. Cole Reagans is still the guy that if I had to choose one of the Royals' 5 starters to start game 1 of the playoffs or a do or die game, I'm taking the guy who's striking out 11 guys per 9, who's given up fewer than a home run per 9, who's only walking 3 guys per 9. I'm taking Cole Reagans. I think he's their best starting pitcher. I think he's one of the best starting pitchers in the American League, even if his win-loss record doesn't reflect that. And kudos to the players or the coaches, managers, whoever it was ended up selecting Cole Reagans because they got that absolutely right.
Yeah, that's without question. And I think you can differentiate between who is the best pitcher and who is having the best season. Seth Lugo is having the best season maybe of any starting pitcher in the American League.
He might start the game.
Yeah, which is also wholly deserved. But if you're talking stuff, if you're talking about repeatability, confidence, long-term confidence in a do-or-die situation, I'm right there with you on Cole Reagans. I think he's got the best stuff of any Royals pitcher. I think he's got the best long-term projection. That has nothing to do with this year, but just talking, grand scheme of things. I'm glad they put him in. I did not think he was going to make it. I wanted him to. I thought he deserved to be an all-star this year. And if he hadn't made this roster, then maybe he ends up being a replacement anyway, because so many guys don't actually end up pitching in the all-star game because of how they line up.
Right.
There's a chance, depending on how it lines up in the Boston series, that one of these Royals guys don't end up pitching in the all-star game. That's just what happens. But he deserved to get nominated for it. He deserved to get a spot in the game. And I'm glad that he's getting his due.
So the pitching staff for the American League, for those who may have missed it, Lugo and Reagans joined by Tarek Skubal of the Tigers, Tanner Houck of the Red Sox, Logan Gilbert of the Mariners, Garrett Crochet of the White Sox, Corbin Burns of the Orioles, and Tyler Anderson of the Angels as the starting pitchers for the American League. They took 4 relievers: Cleveland's Emmanuel Clase, New York's Clay Holmes, Oakland's Mason Miller, and Texas's Kirby Yates. It's not really a lot to argue with here. I understand Eric Fetty's having a really good season for Chicago. The White Sox are also the worst team in baseball. You can't give them 2 all-stars. And Crochet is better than Fetty. So I think once you remove Fetty from consideration, I would have been surprised if they hadn't gone with Cole Reagans at that point.
Yeah.
When you really look at the roster, if they were going to take that many starting pitchers, I think they got it right. I don't have much to argue with when it comes to the pitching staff for the American League.
Yeah, the only argument I would have with the American League is I think there were better options than Clay Holmes of the Yankees.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That is the one that, he started the year really well, but he has not been, he's been straight up bad for a few weeks now. And I've got a couple of friends who are Yankees fans who can't stand the guy and how poorly he's pitched as of late. So that's the only one I would argue with, but I think everything else makes a lot of sense there. The American League has dominated the All-Star game for the greater part of the last couple of decades. I would assume the same thing is going to happen this year. Have you looked at the National League pitching for the All-Star game?
I have probably paid less attention to the National League this year than I have in many years. And that is because I've been watching a lot more Royals baseball and a lot less Rockies baseball. Usually I like to try and watch them both. There's been no compelling reason to watch the Rockies. I think the games this week were the first Rockies games I've watched front to back, maybe all season. I've watched bits and pieces here and there. They're still my team, for God's sake. But I haven't watched a lot of National League baseball. Nothing says it's a down year for the National League than 2 setup men from the same team making the All-Star game pitching staff. The Phillies had 2 relievers make the team, and neither of them is their primary closer.
Yeah, I get it. because the Phillies are really good. I think we could have found a better option than Matt Strahm for the All-Star game. And if you can't, yikes.
An ex-Royal and an ex-Rocky, Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman, both from the Phillies. They took 5 relievers on the National League squad. That really surprised me, especially two setup guys. The one thing I will applaud the National League for getting right, for baseball getting right, you have to get your stars in the All-Star game. Paul Skeens being in the All-Star game, unquestionably the correct thing to do. Even though he's only made 10 starts, they've been awesome. And all apologies to certain guys. Like, I know Jake Irvin's having a really nice year for Washington, and there are some other relievers that are having nice years, but like Paul Skeens is a guy people will turn on the TV to watch in the All-Star game, just like Ellie De La Cruz is.
Yep.
You have to get those bold-faced names in the All-Star game, and Major League Baseball did that, so credit to them.
Do you know how many first-time pitchers there are for the All-Star roster? Just pitchers.
I think I read there were 10 of them in the National League. There are 32 first-timers overall, so I'll say half, 16.
15 first-time pitchers. Garrett Crochet, Logan Gilbert, Tanner Houck, Seth Lugo, Mason Miller, Cole Reagans, Tarek Skubal, all in the American League. And then in the National League, Jeff Hoffman, Shota Iminaga, Ronaldo Lopez, Tanner Scott, Paul Skeens, Matt Strahm, Ranger Suarez, Robert Suarez, and Logan Webb, who should have been an All-Star years ago at this point. But that's crazy that there are so many new faces. And again, that's just the pitching staff. And there are obviously a few in the respective batting orders as well that'll be first-timers.
So that's fun for the Royals. Also fun, Bobby Witt Jr. is going to participate in the Home Run Derby. I think he's going to be really good at it because he hits the ball hard. I think exit velocity plays in the Home Run Derby.
It does. I will tell you this. Is there empirical evidence that this is true? Depends on who you ask. This is one of maybe my very biggest baseball superstition. I'm expecting a downturn at the end of July into August, Robbie Wood Jr. I don't want my guys in the Home Run Derby. I think it screws up your swing. Is it nonsense? Maybe. Is there some evidence, but evidence you can probably twist and turn to meet your desired outcome?
So it's like
yes.
It's like the Madden curse.
Kind of.
This is like the Major League Baseball version of the Madden curse. The idea that the Home Run Derby, here's what really is happening, is that you probably had an awesome first half if you're an all-star. And so naturally, maybe taper off a little bit. You don't continue to play at the same nuclear level that you did in the first half. So if somebody had a 950 OPS in the first half, does the Home Run Derby, and then they have an 800 OPS in the second half, that's still really good. Yeah. They still had an awesome year. Did the Home Run Derby screw up their swing, or were they just regressing to the mean? Was it just water finding its level after the All-Star game?
I want my guys, if they make it to the Home Run Derby, to get eliminated in the first round. Get through the hacking in one round. Don't make it an entire night of hacking. That's what I want.
So this is fascinating. Bobby Witt Jr. has an extensive major league family tree. Obviously, his dad, Bobby Witt Sr., pitched in the major leagues for a very long time. He also has 3 brothers-in-law who played in professional baseball. And one of them is going to be his batting practice pitcher, not the active one. Zach Neal, who I did not know was Bobby Witt Jr.'s brother-in-law, he's pitched in 14 games for Oakland this year. So it's not going to be him. And it is not going to be the other active member of the Oakland A's to whom Bobby Witt Jr. is related by marriage. That would be outfielder Cody Thomas, who's appeared in 19 games for the A's this year. No, he is going to have James Russell throw him batting practice. Ex-Cub, James Russell.
Oh, I remember well. Yeah, no, because Bobby Witt has a story about James Russell taking him to games and like throwing catch with him when he was a kid.
Yes, because James Russell's dad, Jeff Russell, played on the Rangers with Bobby Witt Sr. So James Russell's career came to an end after the 2016 season with Philadelphia, at least his big league career. He gave up 1.2 home runs per 9. So I think he should be a good candidate to toss up some pitches for Bobby Witt Jr. to hit out of the park. One
real quick aside before we get to commercial here. There's been so much consternation about the Bronny James thing in the last week since he got drafted.
People just discovering
back to that conversation we just had about the intermarriage and the child of baseball players and families and the children of baseball players all being connected. This is not new.
For everybody else who just discovered nepotism, what it was.
Welcome to professional sports
during
in
the
America.
2024 NBA draft. Yeah, first time. We'll got to take a break here. When we come back on the other side, an interesting clip from Hard Knocks regarding a Chiefs star and one team that had their eye on maybe acquiring that player in the offseason. That's coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Anybody watching the HBO New York Giants offseason Hard Knocks?
I've seen the clips that make it to Twitter where people mostly say, wow, these guys are idiots, which doesn't make a whole lot of, not a whole lot of surprise there.
Joe Schoen devaluing the DePauw University degree that I hold every time he opens his mouth on camera. It's a tough look for my beloved old Golden Black.
So I did see, though, there was a clip from this most recent episode where they were talking about defensive linemen and do we want to go for the big score and go get one great player, or we have so many holes, should we go for quantity over quality? He actually says that. So here's the clip where Joe Schoen, the general manager of the New York Giants, is talking to his scouts and his front office people about Chris Jones, what kind of player he is, and whether or not they could make it work trying to add him alongside Dexter Lawrence. Take a listen.
To go get three, high-level starters and, that's all you get? Or do you go quantity, over quality because we have so many holes? Or, we just need one player that'll, really change the roster?
Obviously, starting off with Chris Jones being the belle of the ball in this class.
No chance of stopping Chris Jones one-on-one. That's the difference between scoring on a drive and not. If a great player can beat someone
future Hall of Fame player.
Watch Chris Jones right here. Swing those.
Still game-wrecking talent. Makes football look easy at times.
Chris Jones gets another sack.
When he's dialed in, playing within the scheme, and he's unblockable, it's hard not to imagine the good things that would come with him and Dex together in the middle. They're the two best defensive tackles in football.
He's able to push Nelson right back in. If Everett tries to step up, he takes them both to the ground.
You watch the tape, you see Chris Jones getting double teamed every snap. And the guy on the other side just having one block. You just imagine that's Dex with one guy on him every time. The possibilities of the game-wrecking capabilities there. Financially, is it possible where we're at? You're looking at like a $35 million cap hit next year.
So that again was Joe Schoen, the general manager of the New York Giants, talking about, can we make it work for Chris Jones? What kind of player he is? One, I have a hard time seeing Chris Jones ending up in New York. Had he even hit true free agency, I would have been somewhat surprised by that. Also, for the record, he only has a $7 million cap hit this year. It becomes $35 million next year in 2025. Or 2 seasons from now, I should say. So that's one part of it. The other one here, and I will give Joe Schoen credit for this. His reasoning saying, watch the tape. Chris Jones is getting doubled every single time. Every single passing snap, they are doubling Chris Jones. Can you imagine what an offensive line would have to do knowing you've got to double him and then also having Dexter Lawrence next to him? That's an all-time. We're talking like the Rams 4 horsemen, all-time great interior defensive line pairing. Now, financially, is it going to work? Probably not. Obviously, the Chiefs end up bringing Chris Jones back. But that's the same logic I was trying to use going into the draft this year when I really wanted the Chiefs to add another guy on the interior of the defensive line. I like Turk Wharton. Derek Notty's a fine player. They're going to mix and match. When Amenahu gets healthy, I'm sure he'll do some interior stuff. Maybe Felix does with a little added weight as well. But having another monster insider, as close to one as you can get, I thought would have been really nice for the Chiefs. Instead, they have some guys who have some nice traits who they'll run next to Chris Jones. But I had the very same thought there that, man, if you could go get one, Byron Murphy from Texas or T'Vondre Sweat. Obviously, there's other things going on with T'Vondre Sweat. But one of those dudes to link up with Chris Jones up front, devastating for everyone. At that point, you just need average guys on the edge. And we know the Chiefs have better than average on the edge, at least in the case of a healthy Amenahu and in Karlaftis.
I just think it's fascinating to hear them, basically they're playing fantasy football. And it just goes to show you that is a lot of what general managers do. There's a little bit of, let's write this down on paper and see how it looks. Let's imagine what this would be like. Just for funsies, because we can't afford it. It's probably not going to get to a point where it's realistic for us. But man, can you imagine if it was like that? We all think, and I'm the royal we here, like the editorial. We all think we could do a better job than whoever the GM of our favorite team is.
Yeah.
In at least one of the sports that we cover. Like if you're a Chiefs fan, you think you do a better job than Brett Veach, you should definitely submit a resume because Brett Veach is really, really good at his job. Yeah. We all at some point have thought, I do a better job of roster building than the general manager. And now we're seeing with this show that, that's what general managers are doing. They're just kind of, they're just fantasy. They're playing fantasy football a little bit, just like we would do.
Like building a Madden roster. I remember when I used to play Madden all the time, I'd put together a franchise, and I would just every offseason give new contract extensions to all of my good players and just push it off into the indeterminate future. So I could keep oh, sweet. I just signed Larry Fitzgerald at 39 years old to a 7-year contract. And we're just going to keep doing that over and over to make the cap work. Like that's what that clip sounded like right there. It is kind of a fun thought, though. Imagine putting Chris Jones next to Dexter Lawrence or, throw Christian Wilkins into the mix. Some of these other Quinnen Williams, these other elite interior guys. We haven't seen that. Like that is not something that anyone has done. The Chiefs have been the Chiefs and the Rams have been at the forefront of it because they've had Hall of Famers, one single one of them on the interior. So I don't blame the Giants for thinking about it, but and it's, with the benefit of hindsight, it's hard to have ever imagined Chris Jones leaving Kansas City. And B, the Giants would have screwed it up anyway.
It's the Jay-Z logic, right? What's better than one billionaire? Two.
Yeah.
What's better than one stud in the middle who can rush passer? Two.
Yep.
We'll take a break here, get to the top of the hour on 580 Sports Talk. In the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to talk to Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, our NFL insider, and we will rank the Big 12 coaches, our Big 12 coaching tiers from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on this Monday of 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW FM 104.9 and online worldwide at 580WIBW.com. From the Kansas Drive to Zero studio, Dan Lucero, Brendan Brzezinski, and producer-engineer Trenton Kraxner hanging out with you on this Monday until 6 p.m. Spencer Dupuis will be along in a little while as well on the show today. Appreciate you tuning in, however you're consuming the program. Glad you're doing it. Hope y'all had an outstanding weekend. Appreciate those of you watching on the YouTube live stream as well. 580 Sports Talk. Hello to everybody in the live chat today. You can also find us on Facebook, WIBW News, and on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, to watch the live video stream of the show. Interact with us in the YouTube live chat or on the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We will talk a little bit about the weekend that was. We'll do a little good, bad, ugly coming up later on this hour. And bottom of the hour, Matt Verderame from Sports Illustrated, our NFL insider, will join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, get his thoughts on the latest Chiefs thoughts and any other NFL headlines that we can think of to discuss with Matt coming up at the bottom of this hour here on the program. But we're going to start because tomorrow is the start of Big 12 Media Days. Full disclosure, your boy thought it was today. I thought they started today. They always, I think, are Tuesday, Wednesday. Always have been. I thought it would be different because they were moving to Vegas, I guess. And everybody was all frantically telling their travel stories. Apparently, it has been very dire for many members of the Kansas media. Many of our friends in and around the Kansas media orbit, just getting to Las Vegas has been a bit of an adventure. One, the tarmacs are melting in Las Vegas. It's Death Valley degrees.
Yep.
But also, if you're flying to Vegas, you're probably either flying Allegiant or Spirit. And, buddy, you get what you pay for. So
always.
Every single time. So I thought they started today. They don't. Then when they start tomorrow, Brett Yormark will have the keynote address. He'll start tomorrow by addressing the media. That'll be around noon Central Time. And then Chris Kleiman will speak tomorrow as well. And we'll play that audio for you here on 580 Sports Talk on the Tuesday edition of the show. We'll hear from Lance Leipold on the Wednesday edition of the program. And any other audio we can get that we deem relevant, we'll bring to you as well. But as a preview of sorts of the start of Big 12 Media Days tomorrow, because it really does feel like the start of football season.
Things ramp up from here.
Yes, you start to think football at this stage. You've got your Phil Steele magazine, and the video game comes out next week, and you really start to think college football.
Mm-hmm.
And the media days are a part of that. So we thought that we would do an exercise, revisit an exercise that we actually did last year, and we would tier the coaches in the Big 12 conference. We would rank them and put them on tiers that they belong on. And if you're watching on the video stream, we're actually going to have, we'll show you the images of the tiers that all three of us, myself, Brendan, and Trenton, have come up with. It is, of course, 16-team league now. Mm-hmm. So you have 4 new head coaches in the league because their teams are new to the league. Colorado's Deion Sanders, Arizona's Brent Brennan, Arizona State's Kenny Dillingham, and Utah's Kyle Whittingham. Dillingham. Interesting. You also have 1 new head coach from the holdover teams. It's not interesting, is it? It's not even a little bit interesting.
It's a little funny.
It's a little odd, I suppose.
Yeah.
1 new head coach among the 12 holdovers from last year's version of the Big 12 Conference. That's Willie Fritz, the new head man at Houston, replacing the deposed Dana Holgorsen. Everybody else comes back, which usually it feels like you get a little more turnover than that, particularly in a 12 to 14 team league. But Dave Aranda kept his job, and Neil Brown saved his job, and nobody else was really in a position to get fired, and then nobody left their good job for a different job. So it's a familiar cast of characters plus the new teams entering the league this year, but perceptions can change about coaches on a year in, year out basis. So we have tiered the coaches, and we're going to start with my tier. I'm going to lead us off. This is how I rank / tier the Big 12 coaches. And again, if you're watching on the YouTube live stream, 580 Sports Talk, if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News, if you're watching on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk, you'll be able to follow along with our tier maker graphics here. Really high-end stuff. So here's my coaching tier. I start with the top tier, the upper crust of Big 12 football coaches. That's Kyle Whittingham, Chris Kleiman, and Mike Gundy. That is my upper crust of the league. If my coach is one of those guys, I believe every year I'm going to be contending for a Big 12 championship. I think that is the established ceiling of these coaches, that I will be contending for a conference championship with this coach. Chris Kleiman has a Big 12 championship. Mike Gundy has a Big 12 championship. Kyle Whittingham has some Pac-12 championships. The rest of the coaches on this list, they're a little short on league championships.
Yeah.
And Dave Aranda's got one, but he's a little lower on the list, as you'll come to see. That might have been one of those I won with somebody else's players sort of league championships.
You don't say.
But that's my upper crust of coaches. Whittingham and Kleiman and Gundy. My second tier of coaches, my expect to win tier. If one of these gentlemen is your head coaches, you should expect to have a winning season and potentially in a really good year contend for a conference championship. I have Lance Leipold on this tier. I have Gus Malzahn of UCF on this tier. And I have Willie Fritz on this tier.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's his first year in a new league. And it's his first time coaching in the Power Four now. But that man won at Tulane. And I don't know what you know about Tulane football, but they weren't doing a whole lot of winning for the 20 years prior to Willie Fritz showing up and asking his players whether they wanted to be the hammer or whether they wanted to be the nail. I thought about making him his own hammer and nail tier, but it was just going to beat jokes into the ground at that point.
Prior to Willie Fritz showing up, how many bowls had Tulane been to since 1988?
Boy, not many. Like three?
Three.
Yeah.
Three. They won the Liberty Bowl with Tommy Bowden, 1998, undefeated. They won the Hawaii Bowl in 2002. And in 2013, they lost the New Orleans Bowl. Those are the only bowl games they had been to since Mac Brown took them to the Independence Bowl in 1987.
So, that's the kind of coach you're talking about that wins at Tulane. You don't win there by accident. Mac Brown won at Tulane, and Willie Fritz has won at Tulane. Different eras, but still, hard place to win. He didn't just win at Tulane. He got them to a New Year's Six.
Yep.
So, I think that
they won.
Yes.
Over a guy who just won or was just named the number one pick in the NFL draft.
So I don't think it's going to happen right away for Willie Fritz at Houston. I'm giving him a little bit of a year zero because, again, it's a program that's new as a whole to Power 4 football. But I don't think it'll be long before Houston is good. I've been saying for a long time, I think Houston's a sleeping giant of a football program. I think there's a ton of want to. Obviously, you have the pipeline into Texas. And I think Willie Fritz, despite the fact that he's old for a first-time Power 5 head coach, is going to have that team winning in short order. So that's my second tier of coaches. Fritz, Leipold, Malzahn. On his own tier, a tier I have called 7 and 5, is Matt Campbell. If Iowa State has a roster that is overlooked or looked down upon or not much is expected, Matt Campbell will have those guys playing hard and playing together, and you will look up at the end of the year, and Iowa State is 7 and 5. If Matt Campbell has a roster that is expected to excel, that is expected to contend, that is expected to make some waves in the conference, as is the case in some quarters this year, you will look up at the end of the year and you will see Matt Campbell has delivered a 7 and 5 season. 7 and 5 is not bad at Iowa State. In fact, it's quite good historically for a program that, again, has never won double-digit games. But 7 and 5 is what you get with Matt Campbell. And I don't necessarily mean that as a put down. I think he's something short of a coach where I think he is going to guide his team to being a perennial contender or perennially in the mix in the conference. But by God, he's going to get you to 7 and 5. And at a job like Iowa State, that's pretty good. I think you take that.
Yeah, I would say so.
So I'm not maybe as high on Matt Campbell. We'll see what you guys think of him, but I have him in his own 7 and 5 tier. My next tier is called Varying Degrees of Fine. This is where I have Sonny Dykes of TCU, Joey McGuire of Texas Tech, Kalani Sitake of BYU, Neil Brown of West Virginia, and Brent Brennan of Arizona. These are all coaches I think have ceilings, could put competitive products on the field year in and year out. This is an upgrade from what I thought about Neil Brown going into last year, where his seat was scalding hot. And he saved his job in West Virginia, had a good year, won their bowl game convincingly, went 9-4. This is a tier down from where I would have had Joey McGuire last year. I really liked what he was building at Texas Tech after year 1. Year 2 was a letdown. So now I got to see what it looks like in year 3, but I still like his energy, and I like his ability to recruit to Lubbock. Those are all coaches that I think can be in their current jobs for a long time and probably deliver the results that are going to be acceptable for those programs for some years to come.
Mm-hmm.
For Dykes at TCU, I think he could have that team in the mix to win another conference championship soon. For Brown at West Virginia, more of what they saw last year is probably going to be good enough. So that's my varying degrees of fine tier.
Yeah. We'll get to more Neil Brown.
Then I have the Coach Prime tier.
Yeah.
On which resides Coach Prime.
Yeah.
Deion Sanders. Is he good at his job? I don't know.
What's his job?
Yes.
That's the question you have to ask first.
Yes. Is his job win football games at the University of Colorado, or is his job glorified AAU dad?
Depending on your answer to that question, that probably informs how high the Coach Prime tier should be in this group.
Coach Prime elevated the talent level at a school that had been mostly dirt for 2 decades. Went from 1 win to 4, and they were competitive in some of their losses too. That 4 could have probably been 5 or 6. They were competitive in some of their losses.
They blew a 29-0 lead.
Yes, they did, to Stanford. They blew a 29-0 lead to Stanford. They also blew a huge lead at Colorado State. We're lucky to win that game in double overtime. Also, Pat Shurmur is his offensive coordinator. No other college coach in the country would have made that higher, except maybe a coach who wants to get his kid to the NFL, so he hires a guy with NFL bona fides to be his offensive coordinator. I'm just saying.
Anywho.
There's a lot you can say about Coach Prime. So that's Coach Prime tier. And then at the bottom, I have the You Need Indeed tier. Coaches I expect to be on the hunt for a new job, if not after this season, then very soon. Dave Aranda of Baylor, Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, and Scott Satterfield of Cincinnati. Dave Aranda, I think it's pretty clear, benefited from getting to coach Matt Rule's players.
Yep.
After Matt Rule left Baylor, it has been a mess since. I don't think it's going to get a lot better this year for the Baylor Bears, and I don't think Aranda makes it past this season. Kenny Dillingham is super young. Maybe this is unfair to him. I just think he's in a no-win situation at Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's really a path for that program to be a perennial contender in the league.
Me either.
And I think Dillingham is going to really, really struggle. I think they're a coach away probably from getting to maybe what's realistic for them. And then Scott Satterfield, I think, is the worst coach in the conference. I think they've upgraded their talent a little bit at Cincinnati. I'll give him credit for that. But
tons of Spencer and I were talking about that a few weeks ago. They've added an absurd number of transfers.
But I just think that he is maybe the most unpleasant of these 16 head coaches.
Yeah.
And maybe the hardest to play for and to like. And I think that it will not be long before Cincinnati realizes that that's not a tenable path forward. If not this year, then next year. I just don't think Satterfield gets more than 3 years there at Cincinnati. So that is Dan Lucero's Big 12 coaching tier. Brendan.
Very few arguments for me overall on yours. For mine, we will again start at the top here with the best group, and that is what I like to call the masters of their craft group. I think given circumstance as well as success, these are the very best in the league. I've got the 2 Kansas coaches both in the top tier. I think Chris Kleiman, I don't think anyone in the whole country should have any doubts about Chris Kleiman's bona fides as a head coach. The dude wins everywhere he's been. We'll get to Lance doing the same in a second. He has won. He's amped up the recruiting. He has won even when he hasn't had elite recruiting. Chris Kleiman's bona fides are untouchable. I think Lance Leipold is in the same group. And you could say, well, he hasn't won a conference title yet. Well, no, he hasn't. Have you seen the program he took over a few years ago?
He's winning football games at Kansas.
A team that was left for dead, that at one point within the last decade had something like 28 to 30 players on scholarship at the FBS Power Ben 5 level. And he has turned KU into a team that has expectations to finish top 4 in the Big 12 and has been good and improving back-to-back years. Lance Leipold belongs in that spot. I have Matt Campbell in this tier. And the reason why, again, I emphasize circumstances. That school historically has stunk at football. Like Paul Rhodes was something of a success with 3 bowl game appearances in, what was he there for? 8 years? 7 years?
Something like that, yeah.
Like that was good. Dan McCarney won a decent amount there, Prior to that, they were garbage. That was a garbage program forever. And the fact that Campbell has done it and has been consistent and has been to a bowl game in now, what would it be, 6 of the last 7 years, save for the 22 season, which was obviously a huge letdown for them. That's really impressive for Iowa State to win recruiting battles. They've recruited Kansas City and Kansas phenomenally in recent years. I love to make fun of the guy. I do not think he is as good as some people make him out to be, but given the circumstances, I think he deserves adulation. And I'm putting Whittingham in the top 2. And I can understand anyone who would say, maybe bump him down one tier. My next tier is very good as well. Oh, Utah's a good program. Historically, Utah has been good. Ron McBride won a bunch there. Obviously, Urban Meyer was there for 2 years. 10-2 with a Liberty Bowl win and a top 25 finish, and then an undefeated season and a Fiesta Bowl win with the guy who ended up being the number 1 pick in the following NFL draft. Urban knew what he was doing. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time. All-time you-know-what, but also all-time great coach. Whittingham, since then, has done almost nothing but win.
Yeah.
19 seasons as the head coach at Utah. 17 winning seasons with 2 years of 5-7 in the second and third years that Utah was in the Pac-12. He's done nothing but win since. He is 0-5 in their last 5 bowl games, which is kind of startling, but those are exhibitions more and more every year. So I think Whittingham belongs in that top group. Next, I have the indisputably good. I don't think they are perfect. I don't think they are as good at everything as the other 4 I just mentioned, but I've got Willie Fritz and Mike Gundy here. And it pains me a little bit to put Gundy and Campbell as high up on these lists as I have here, but Gundy wins all the time, especially when you doubt that he's going to win like I did last year. They won a bunch, and I think Fritz is a stud. I think he is a great coach, and I think he'll win at Houston. Probably not this year, but going forward, I think he'll win plenty at Houston. Third tier, probably good. That's what this tier is called. I think these coaches are good. Gus Malzahn and Sonny Dykes. Sonny Dykes got his team to a national championship game.
Yes,
got
he
him to the
did.
playoff first year with a quarterback who he had benched going into week 1. That season was incredible. Nothing about the 2023 TCU Horned Frogs makes me believe that is a program that's going to find that success again anytime in the near future. I don't think they're a contender right now. I think Dykes is a good coach. Thought he was good at SMU. I just don't know how good. I don't think he's better than the other 6 coaches I've mentioned. And Malzahn, they're going to score points. They're going to have fun offense. They're going to win games they shouldn't win. They're also going to lose games they shouldn't lose. So Malzahn, I think, belongs in the probably good tier. Middle class. I call this tier the I'm hopeful. I like all of these guys. I think they can find success at their current program, but I need to see a little bit more in the Big 12, and I need to see a little bit more over a longer period of time. The newest one is Brent Brennan at Arizona. Love what he did at San Jose State. Love what he did there. Their offense was fun. That is a program that is hard to recruit to, which San Jose, hard to recruit to? Yes. That is a hard program to get talent to. It's a really hard place to win historically, and he won over the last couple of years. I think he's a really good coach. Got to see it at this level, though. He'll have plenty of talent to win with this year, though, left over from the Jed Fish administration. Kalani Sitake, BYU. I like Kalani Sitake. Last year, kind of up and down. They're going to have to figure out the quarterback situation. Having someone they actually develop, I think, is going to be important for them. I don't know for a fact he can get it done in the Big 12, but I hope he can because I like the guy. And I've got Joey McGuire in this tier. Last year was such a disappointment.
It was.
The expectation that, man, Texas Tech is going to come, grab this conference's respective bulls by their horns, lead them.
They lost all the close games that they won in 2022 is what happened.
Yeah, I got to see another year of it. I'm with you on Coach Prime. He gets his own tier, either prime candidate to surprise you, good or bad. That's kind of what I have for the prime tier. My second to last one, rent, don't buy. I'm not saying they're fired yet, but I probably wouldn't put that down payment down. I've got Neil Brown there. If West Virginia believed in Neil Brown, he would have gotten more than a 1-year extension.
That's a fact.
That tells me a lot about what they think. And then I've got Dillingham there too. I like him. He's young. I think Arizona State is in a bad, bad place. And finally, time to update your LinkedIn. Dave Aranda and Scott Satterfield. I think probably the 2 worst just football coaches in the conference.
So that is Brendan's Big 12 coaching tiers. All right, Trenton, across the glass. You have your tiers. Let's run through these quickly. And you have your 5 tiers of Big 12 head football coaches. Go ahead.
Yeah. Pretty much in an agreement. Mike Gundy. Is that no?
Sonny Dykes, yeah.
That's on me, guys. I got him and Chris Kleiman, their pictures confused.
Purple.
No, I just realized that. I was like,
all good.
no, that's on me.
So Gundy, Kleiman, and Whittingham is your elite coaches.
Yes, and I even had to go ask Dan. I was like, who a couple of these guys were because the pictures were so small. Before I made a couple of my last ones, so you can switch Sonny Dykes and Chris Kleiman on that category.
We'll put that up on the screen.
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah,
perfect.
Pictures were rather small, and I guess my eyesight wasn't that great today.
All good.
Yeah, like you said, I think those are the top 3 teams going forward in the league. Great coaches. These are the guys that I think aren't on that elite level yet, but they're really good at their job. I'm a big believer in Texas Tech and Joey McGuire, Lance Leipold, and I think Gus Malzahn is going to turn UCF. They're going to be scary this year.
They're going to score so many points.
They're going to surprise teams.
I keep forgetting they added Penny Boone, who was
and KJ Jefferson.
Yes, they are the only team in the country with 2,000-yard backs. From last year, and returning this year.
I'm just happy that KU doesn't have them on their schedule because they're going to go. They would go down and remember what Oklahoma State lost like 56-3 last year. That'd be KU probably at UCF. I think they would just dominate. And solid coaches. These are meh. They're average. Neil Brown, I think he got real lucky with an easy schedule last year. Sonny Dykes instead of Chris Kleiman. I don't know. I'm not a big believer of his. And then Coach Prime, I think he's a great motivator. I mean, I think he might. I think he's a great motivator as a coach. Maybe not the X's and O's and the way he goes about things. And these are the guys I think I need them to prove some a little bit more. Maybe like a first guy, Dillingham, Satterfield, Campbell, Fritz, and Brennan to their respective schools. A couple of those guys in their first couple of years, time to build up their program. Not a big believer in Matt Campbell, which we've greatly talked about at length. And then I think rev up your LinkedIn page, buddy. These are the guys on the hot seat. I'm going to say Dave Aranda for Baylor and Kalani Sitake because
Sitake's interesting there. I do wonder if it's getting a little stale.
Yeah, I looked up his record, and he had 2 really good years. 2020 they won 11-1. They won the Boca Raton Bowl, and then 2021 they went 10-3 and lost the Independence Bowl. But outside of that, 9-4, 4-9, 7-6, 7-6, 8-5, and then 5-7 last year. So I think he's just. You better prove something because you got to compete. That. And we've talked about this, I think maybe last week. They have Gary Bohannon as their quarterback. So it's going to be a rough year for them, and he might be all the way out.
Yeah, I mean, if they go 5-7 again, there are going to be some questions asked.
They have way too much money and infrastructure at BYU in that program to settle for average.
So those are our Big 12 coaching tiers. Agree, disagree? Who are your top tier or bottom tier Big 12 head coaches? Let us know in the YouTube live chat or on our Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. We're going to take a break, come back with the good, bad, ugly from the weekend after this. Good, bad, ugly from the weekend that was here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, we'll leave things off with you. What was your good?
The good for me is I got some projects done around the house this weekend. Mowed the lawn a couple of times to get it finally short the way I wanted it to. Got a room freshly painted, ceiling painted over the weekend. Look
at you, Bob Vila.
Yeah, I know. We had projects we had to get done, and we were done waiting. So we got that done and saw some of Abby's family on the 4th of July, which was really nice. I wasn't on the show on Friday to share that. So, yeah, saw some of her family. It was really nice to shoot off some fireworks, see some friends, and, just an enjoyable few days.
Outstanding. My good for the weekend, we also got to see family. Of course, my wife's extended family all lives in the area. She's from Meriden, so we got a lot of extended family in the area. We braved it. We took Asher to brunch on Sunday, our 1-month-old baby boy. We took him to brunch with grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle and cousin. So it was a big crowd that went over to the Big Biscuit. Shout out the Big Biscuit for brunch, and Asher handled it like a champ. He behaved well. He mostly slept, which is what we were hoping for, and proved to us that maybe we can take him on some eating out adventures in the future. So grateful that Asher handled that well. That was my good for the weekend.
Awesome.
Also, the Midwest Scramble that I had was also very good. So.
Yeah, sounds delicious. My bad. Remember how I mentioned it was good that I got to mow my lawn? My mower had been broken, so my lawn had gotten a little overgrown. Okay. So late last week, I mowed it, and I thought, okay, well, it's finally done. It took forever, but I'll mow it again a second time on Sunday. I can lower the mower. It won't take as long, get it nice and short. It took me 3 hours to do my entire lawn on Friday last week. It then took me another 3 hours yesterday. 6 hours of my weekend dedicated to mowing the lawn. I've never been covered in more grass in my whole life.
Jeez.
It took it looks good. It looks a lot better, but oh my God, it took so much time.
Yeah, I had to mow the front and back as well yesterday. It was starting to clump a little bit. We thought it was going to rain yesterday, and it never did. My bad for the weekend, the Royals offense Friday and Saturday. That was gross.
Yeah.
Those at-bats were not good. I have seen Austin Gomber's movies. He should not be doing that to any major league lineups at Coors Field. Never mind a team that is ostensibly in wild card contention. That was a rough effort for the Royals Friday and Saturday. So that's my bad.
Speaking of teams with terrible bullpens, my ugly Colton Brewer, bad relief pitcher for the Chicago Cubs, who also have a terrible bullpen, was really mad about a bad outing the other day. So he took it out on a wall with his fist, and now he's out for the year.
Jeez.
Most guys get put on the 10 or the 15-day IL before they get put on the 60, right? No, they put him straight on the 60-day IL. He shattered his hand punching a wall because he couldn't get guys out. And now he's out for the year.
You know, pitchers are just so into velocity these days. I guess I'm not really surprised that the velocity of a punch into a wall could shatter a hand anymore.
Idiot.
My ugly is from the European Championships of Soccer. They've hired an official for a semifinal match between England and the Netherlands who's been banned for 6 months previously for taking a bribe.
Yeah, a bribe of 300 euros. It's like nothing.
Yes.
In this day and age, $300 got you to fix a game?
A corrupt official, a provably corrupt official. I know that was 19 years ago, but if you're corrupt once, it's your scarlet letter.
There's a reason Tim Donaghy ain't getting work.
Right. This would be like giving Tim Donaghy the Western Conference Finals. It's preposterous. Great tournament you got going there, UEFA. We'll take a break. We'll come back with Matt Verderame, talk some NFL football coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Every Monday, it is our privilege to be joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also, That Football Show on the KC Sports Network and the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon. You can find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. You can hear him on Mondays right here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, how was your 4th of July weekend?
It was great. It was great. I am out east on vacation, trying to relax before football consumes me until the end of time. And it was nice to just sit back and watch other people risk losing a few fingers for entertainment.
That's the best way to enjoy fireworks, watching other people light them. I've decided that's definitely the way to go. And then, we're about, what, a week away from the start of some of these training camps now?
Yeah, if memory serves, the Chiefs, the rookies and the quarterbacks, it's what, July 16th? They show up. So
I think that's right.
Yeah, so the 16th, and then I think 2 weeks from today is the first full team practice. But yeah, there are even a few teams starting for them. So yes, we are getting there. We are getting there, and that means real football, and I'm happy about that because that means less talking about, some guy holding out for more money, which is an annual right of summer.
Holdouts and franchise tags and power rankings and things like that. They fill the void as best as they can, but there's no substitute for talking about the actual games. But again, we're not there yet, so let's talk about some power rankings. I saw one earlier this week that said, and this was from Pro Football Focus, that the Chiefs have a top 10 secondary in the NFL, and I find that very difficult to argue with. You don't lose a guy who played as well as L'Jarius Sneed played last year and get better, improve from the year previous, because Sneed was awesome and probably should have been an All-Pro. But Trent McDuffie was an All-Pro. And Justin Reed is still around, and Brian Cook is back from injury, and there's a lot of optimism, it seems, around Shamari Connor and Joshua Williams and the return of Najee Johnson, who they really liked before he got hurt in camp last year. Is there a chance you believe that this Chiefs secondary can at the least maintain the level that it found itself playing at, particularly the second half of last year?
I think it can be close. To your point, and you're right, Snead should have been an All-Pro last year. And you could make a real argument he's the best corner in football. I mean, he played at an obscene level. Now, luckily for the Chiefs, you could also make an argument that Trent McDuffie's a top 3 corner in football. So you still have that guy. And Jalen Watson, while he's not near that conversation, is a really solid corner. Like, if he's your number 2, he doesn't play in the same way, but I would almost liken him in terms of his impact like Rashad Breeland, where Breeland was never a guy who you're like, he's a number 1. He's going to shut down the number 1 receiver on the other team. But you always felt good about him. Like, okay, he's going to handle his business. He'll be fine. And then they have Shamari Connor, who I think is going to play all over the field. And they have Joshua Williams. And they have Najee Johnson, as you mentioned. And also Kamal Hatton, who I think is a guy who's going to push to get in that rotation of corners. So that factored in with a very good duo at safety, one of the top 5-6 duos in the league. I do think they're a top 10 secondary for sure. They might even push for top 5. I thought last year they were the best secondary in football. I don't know that they'll be that this year unless a couple guys really step up. But I think that they're going to clearly be one of the strengths of the team. I don't see them all of a sudden being a weakness because they lost it.
Who do you think starts on the outside opposite Trent McDuffie? Who do you feel like has the inside edge and maybe has the highest ceiling if they win that job?
Well, so I think there's 2 answers to this. So the highest ceiling guy, I think, is Joshua Williams. Athletically speaking, he is the highest upside guy that they have on that part of the roster, that depth chart. I think he's, between his measurables and the athleticism he brings, if Joshua Williams puts it all together, that kid could be a star. However, right now, I think if you look at the first 2 seasons of his career and of Jalen Watson's career, Watson's been more productive, and Watson has played more snaps each of the 2 years. I expect that he will start outside. Now, the other part of this that's interesting, though, is McDuffie made All-Pro last year as a slot corner, and he is excellent in the slot. And I've talked to some people around the Chiefs and said, listen, is there any world that you're concerned where he kind of gets locked inside with Williams and Watson? Because neither one of those guys can play inside. They're both perimeter guys. And that's where I think Jamari Connor might come into the picture here. Because in college, Jamari Connor played a ton of slot. He led his team in sacks one year in college as a slot corner. Like, he's able to do that. And so I wonder with the Chiefs, if when they're just in base, if they have, let's say, Watson and McDuffie, and it's just those two guys. But in today's game, your real true base is when you're in nickel. And in nickel, I'm curious to see how often McDuffie plays in the slot and how often he goes outside, and then they put Williams or Watson or Najee Johnson out there, and Connor slides into the slot with Reed and Cook in the back. So I think the Chiefs, the versatility that Connor brings, I think is going to be incredibly important this season for them in the secondary.
We're chatting with Matt Verderame, who covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated and SI.com. He is also the host of the Matt Verderame Show on Patreon and That Football Show at the KC Sports Network. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline every Monday at this time to talk all things NFL. Matt, earlier this afternoon, the NFL announced that Steelers cornerback Cameron Sutton is going to get an 8-game suspension this year. He's not going to appeal it for a violation of the personal conduct policy related to a domestic incident that happened earlier on this offseason or at the end of the year. My memory is a little cloudy about when it happened, but that's an 8-game suspension for him to start the year. Again, he's not going to appeal. Do you think that gives us any sort of window into what a suspension could look like for Rashee Rice? Obviously, different personal conduct issues, but major noteworthy ones nonetheless.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because, you know, without it right in front of me, to be completely transparent, I can't remember with Sutton if he had any prior legal issues or if this is the first one. I think that's something that you'd have to look at and say, okay, is this his first violation? Is this something with Sutton where he's been, a problem in terms of legal issues before? So that's one thing. The other thing with the NFL, I tell people this all the time. The NFL has shown me that every suspension is typically unto itself. You try to correlate, hey, this guy got 6 games. Well, this guy got 4 games. This guy got 8 games. Why? Who knows? Because the NFL decided that was applicable. The one thing that is difficult right now with the Rashee Rice situation is just you got so many outstanding charges that are serious. I mean, they're going to have to go through the judicial process. Now, the NFL doesn't have to wait. I mean, to be completely clear about this for those listening, the NFL could tomorrow decide, hey, we feel confident enough in what we know, we're going to suspend you for X amount of games. And that's it. But they might be waiting to see how this all plays out, because what he did from a legal standpoint and just a societal standpoint was extremely dangerous, extremely serious. And so that might push the suspension back because the NFL is just waiting for more clarity, where maybe they feel like they had enough clarity with the Sutton situation. So does it give you a little window? Maybe, but I would say more often than not in the NFL, every suspension is to itself.
Elsewhere, Matt, around the NFL, earlier this afternoon or late this morning on Twitter, you posted that of all the teams in the AFC and AFC East, everyone's got something that would lead you to believe they could either be great or maybe they could really fall off this year. You said you're still picking the Bills to win the AFC East over the return of Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, over Tua Tagovailoa, that crazy offense, and the Dolphins, and well, certainly over the Patriots. Why would you still go with the Bills even after the offseason they've had that hasn't been a bad offseason, but it's been a take your medicine, eat your vegetables kind of offseason?
Well, because I saw the Chiefs do that 2 years ago and then turn around and win the Super Bowl. Now, I mean, that being said, the Chiefs also had one of the most incredible draft classes of the last decade, where they had 1 million picks. They had multiple firsts and multiple seconds, and other than Sky Moore, nailed all those picks. And then in the latter rounds, found Isaiah Pacheco and Jalen Watson, and Joshua Williams, and Leo Chenal. I mean, look, the Bills, in all likelihood, nothing against their rookie crop, probably did not do that. That being said, Josh Allen is a top 3 to 5 quarterback in the NFL. And that team knows how to win. It has won a lot of games. On the playoffs, different story. The Bills have come up short, and there are a lot of criticisms being levied. But they have won a lot of divisional titles with this quarterback and this coach. I think McDermott will always raise the floor of that defense, at least in the regular season. The playoffs, again, have been a different deal. But I'm a big believer in if things are close, who's your quarterback? And I look at the AFC East. Aaron Rodgers coming back obviously makes the Jets more of a threat, and they added some guys. They added a bunch of guys who are over the age of 30 who are injury prone, and they're playing on the MetLife Stadium turf. Like, I'm not making that bet. I'm also not making the bet on a guy who's 40 coming off of an Achilles, who, by the way, is last year in Green Bay. Not great. Like, how invested is he? I don't know. He skipped mandatory minicamp for reasons that somewhat remain unclear. And with the Dolphins, I just feel like I've seen the movie at this point. I know they're potent offensively unless it's under 75 degrees and unless they're playing somebody who's good. Because the second one of those two things comes into play, they turn into a pumpkin. So I just look at Miami and say, I think Miami's good. I think Miami and the Jets are both teams that'll fight for playoff spots. But I have more faith in Buffalo, even with the ups and downs of Allen, that they'll win the division. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender. I don't think they're that, but I think they'll win the division.
Over at SI.com, you and your fine coworkers are putting together your 32 teams and 32 days previews around the NFL. Don't have to list off everyone you've covered so far, Matt, but of the teams you've written about, that you are writing about, and their preseason previews, who do you think is most likely to surprise fans and viewers this year, whether that's good or bad?
So I am doing all the NFC previews, and Gilberto Manzano is handling all the AFC previews, which, by the way, is going to be the case in our NFL preview magazine in August that people should please go out and buy and keep me employed. I would say of all the teams in the NFC, I think the team that could surprise people the most, and I don't think they're going to surprise in terms of like, oh, they could win the Super Bowl. But like, they could be like, you're in December going, wow, they're actually like somewhat confident, is Arizona. I think Arizona, and like, nobody made more fun of the Jonathan Gannon hire than me. Nobody. I killed Arizona after that Super Bowl and everything. I was like, that's a horrible hire. And maybe it proves to be. It could still certainly be that, and hopefully for Jonathan Gannon, it's not. But I thought last year, even though they went 4-13, they were competitive in a lot of games when they were trotting out Clayton Tune at quarterback. Like, they had nobody. And they were hanging around. End of the year, they played better. They beat Philly and Philadelphia. Like, they had 12 draft picks. They had a lot of high picks. They bring in Marvin Harrison Jr. Trey McBride at tight end is a really good player. They have Kyler Murray healthy for the first time in a couple of years. Like, I think Arizona, it wouldn't be shocking to me if they're sitting there and they're fighting for a wild card spot. And then the other team I think that I have to throw in there, I think the Packers are really good. Like, they don't have Joe Barry anymore holding back the defense. Offensively, Love to me is the goods. He can play. That kid, he's a bona fide. He's going to be a star quarterback. And they got a lot of young weapons who should only be getting better. LaFleur's a top 5 coach in my eyes. Like, I think they're really good. I think they are going to compete alongside Detroit in that division. And I think that the Packers are going to have something to say deep into the playoffs in the NFC.
Finishing things up with our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Find Matt's work at sportsillustrated.si.com/NFL. Hear him on the KC Sports Network and on his own Patreon, Matt Verderame Show. Matt, your colleague at SI, Connor Orr, put out his list of the most underrated players on each team, AFC and NFC, heading into the 2024 season. I'm not going to ask you to pin down the most underrated player in the game, but who is your favorite underrated player in the game? Who's a guy that you can't get enough of watching play, thinking about, and telling other people, man, you got to know and understand how good this guy is? Who's your guy as far as underrated players in the league go?
Wow, that is a really, really good and difficult question. I think, God, just off the top of my head, there's a few. I'll tell you, I think Alex Highsmith in Pittsburgh, who's an edge rusher, which the fact I have to tell people he's an edge rusher kind of speaks to how underrated he is. And he got paid. He got paid last year. He's a great edge rusher. You watch that team, and I think he's so underrated because he's on a front with Hayward and with T.J. Watt. So people just naturally, I mean, how could you not watch Watt? He's must-watch television. He's a phenomenal player. Like, if he was on another team where he was the number one edge rusher, I think you'd be like, this guy's all-pro level player. And yet most people, I feel like, they don't know who he is. But, you know, to me, he's someone that when you watch him, you're like, that guy is box office. I mean, he can really get the job done. And I'll give you one in Kansas City. Well, and I felt like this before the guy was with the Chiefs, is Tranquil. I think Drew Tranquil is one of the best linebackers in football. And, you know, they got him for 3 years, $19 million. And I get that the linebacker market's really bizarre, and you're either getting paid $100 million or you're getting paid 10. But Drew Tranquil can do everything. You want him to run sideline to sideline? No problem. You want him to play pass coverage? Not a problem. Want him to blitz? No problem. I mean, they were playing him as a split high cover 2 safety last year in the playoffs at times. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen any other linebacker do that. They put him next to Justin Reed and let him cover half the field as safety in Baltimore a couple of times. So I think guys like that, to me, are so valuable, and they don't get the attention they deserve.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Also appears on That Football Show, the KC Sports Network, and the Matt Verderame Show, his own Patreon. Subscribe to that today and get all of Matt's outstanding insight. You can also, of course, check him out on Twitter at Matt Verderame and hear him here on Mondays right here on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. Next week will be even closer to the start of training camp. We'll talk to you then.
Take care, guys.
That is Matt Verderame, and that wraps up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk.
Look, I'm never going to complain when Matt hypes up the Packers.
Yeah.
Remember a couple weeks ago when we read something that said they're underrated? Nah, man, everybody in the know is all in on that Green Bay team.
They're this year's Lions, man.
That AFC East, by the way, fascinating division. Like,
yes.
You could make a legit argument for all three of those teams, and whichever two don't win it are going to have a lot of soul searching.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is going to be hell on whoever doesn't win it. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, some more Royals baseball. What is wrong with you? And the state of the Big 12 Conference from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. It's 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 3 of 580 Sports Talk on a Monday. Hope you're having an outstanding Monday, or as outstanding a Monday as it is possible to have. And hopefully we're helping make it just that much more outstanding here on 580 Sports Talk. Glad to be with you. Glad you are with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, and online at 580WIBW.com. I am Dan Lucero, and there are a bunch of empty chairs around me right now. Brendan Dworzynski had to step out. Spencer Dupuis will be along later on. Trenton Kraxner remains across the glass as our producer engineer. I'll just be forthright with those of you who are listening. There is a bit of a shuffling organizationally going on here at Alpha Media, and it has involved all of us. And so if we are away from the desk for a moment, for a segment, for a day, that is the end result of that. But we still have your cast of characters, myself, Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzynski, Spencer Dupuis, for the summer, our intern, Trenton Kraxner. That's still your cast of characters. It's just that we might not be in every episode or in every segment of every episode, which is the way things work from time to time. But that is what is happening. That is why if you are watching the YouTube video right now, you see me in some empty chairs. Those chairs will be filled again by the time this show is over. And many times they will all be full, and many times only one will be full, and many times 2 of them will be full. But we are committed to bringing you 580 Sports Talk day in, day out. Myself and Brendan and Spencer, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep rocking this thing till the wheels fall off. It's just some things going on in the building that are for the better of the entire station, 580 WIBW, for the better of Alpha Media, Topeka as well. And they're just, you may notice some turbulence, some bumps in the road here the first little bit of time as we go through that. But just know that somebody's going to be behind the mic when you turn on 580 Sports Talk, and somebody's going to be on camera, and multiple somebodies a lot more often than not. But felt like it was important to be honest with you, the listener, that there's just some restructuring going on, and some of us are adding to our responsibilities. You'll be hearing our voices in some different places. You might be seeing us out and about on the streets a little bit more often. Not like on the streets. Like, none of us are homeless. None of us have been evicted or anything like that. Not that kind of on the streets. But just some changes that are going on that are a part of a corporate reality, and that we're excited about for the long term, and what they mean for the future of Alpha Media Topeka and for 580 WIBW. But what it may mean is that sometimes we might have to be out of the room for a segment or two. And hopefully you will bear with us and pardon our dust, so to speak, as we remodel and continue to commit bringing a great radio program to you every single day here on 580 Sports Talk. Still to come this hour, the state of the Big 12 ahead of Big 12 Media Days, which again start tomorrow and not today. I thought they started today. I was all set to bring you an extremely Big 12 oriented radio program today. But in fact, Big 12 Media Days presented by Totino's. We asked Matt Derrick this on Friday's show. Trenton Kraxner, I want to pull you in because you're a college student, and I imagine you know your way around a bag of Totino's pizza rolls. Familiar with the item?
Yes.
How many of them can you eat in one sitting?
I would say 30 to 40 if I really wanted to like sit down and was hungry.
Yeah.
They're good.
They are. They're very good.
Elite snack food.
They the problem that I encountered over the years with pizza rolls was that they were either, as the old Jim Gaffigan bit about Hot Pockets goes, they were either served cold or boiling lava hot.
Yeah.
Like you have to really let them cool. And just when you think you've let them cool long enough, you have to let them cool for like another 2 minutes. The air fryer has been the best thing to ever happen to the pizza roll.
Yes. We air fry the pizza rolls now.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. You have to. Completely reinvents how they cook, the evenness of how they cook, and you can pull them before they start to burst at the seams. It has completely revitalized the pizza roll.
Yes, and I think more people should understand how good of a snack it is if they don't, because it's like an elite snack you can eat with your friends when you're playing video games or hanging out or doing whatever. They should start having that at Super Bowl parties and get-togethers. People need to start serving pizza rolls like they do wings and all this other stuff.
We think of it as like a snack food for kids, for teens, for young adults. No, man, embrace the pizza roll. Embrace the pizza roll and its cousin, the pizza bagel. Embrace those as snacks that you can enjoy as an adult. My wife and I will snack on pizza rolls, and we are both into our 30s. So I am well into my 30s, as a matter of fact. So, shout out to Totino's. They're the presenting sponsor of this year's Big 12 Media Days, and those start tomorrow. And we're going to talk a little bit going into them about the state of the Big 12, because it's been a very long and strange trip these last 3 years to where we were for Big 12 Media Days 2022, where Brett Yormark was being introduced as the new commissioner, hadn't yet taken over as the commissioner of the Big 12. From that to the introduction of 4 new conference members last year, but knowing you were going to lose Oklahoma and Texas, and then this year going into things as a 16-team Big 12. Because, again, that all came together before the start of last football season. That all came together after the media days. So what will Brett Yormark have to say tomorrow? It'll be a very interesting address when he speaks at the podium to lead off Big 12 Media Days tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit about that later on in this hour. We'll also have our first round of What Is Wrong With You for the month, or not for the month of July, but for this second week of July. But we're going to start with some Royals talk. Royals dropped 2 out of 3 to the Rockies over the weekend. I'm glad it wasn't a sweep for my own sake, because I think I might have gotten booed through the speakers if you're a resident, if the one Rockies fan probably as a listener to this radio show were to have come on and said, yeah, man, that's tough. That's a tough weekend. Was secretly enjoying it a little too much. Yeah, you guys would have booed me off the air today. So I really needed the Royals to at least get one, and they did, of course, 10-1 yesterday. 49-43 on the year. That is the record. 6 games over 500, down from a peak of 15 over 500 this year. 9 games back of Cleveland in the Central. 3 games back of Minnesota for second place. A game and a half back of Boston for the final wild card spot in the American League. And before I get to what the Royals' strategy might be moving forward, or what it might be moving forward, I want to complain about Walter Pennington for a second. Because Walter Pennington made his major league debut on Friday night. Called up to much fanfare. The outstanding left-handed reliever who's been tearing up the Pacific Coast League. Great story. Colorado kid. Broomfield, born and raised, or at least raised. Colorado School of Mines. First big leaguer from that program in over 100 years. 50-plus family and friends on hand to see if he could make his big league debut. And lo and behold, he's called into the game after John Schreiber poops the bed on Friday night, gives up the go-ahead 2-run double to, that is National League Player of the Week, Brenton Doyle, to you. Comes in with runners at second and third and 1 out and puts out the fire. Strikes out Nolan Jones. He gets the third out of the inning as well. Puts out the fire and gives the Royals a chance going into the top of the 9th inning, keeping the game at 4-2. Heck of a debut. Promising. Showed the swing and miss slider that he's been carving up AAA with this year. Everything you wanted in a debut, I thought we saw from Walter Pennington on Friday night. On Saturday, he was the storm chaser again because the Royals sent him down, farmed him out so that they could get Chris Bubic back to the 26-man roster. More about Bubic in a second, because that was a good story from the weekend. It was great to see him back on a big league mound. And by the way, Colin Selby, your unlucky loser of DFA roulette. We had been wondering who was going to lose their spot on the 40-man roster when Bubic needed to be activated from the 60-day injured list and placed back on it. It ended up being Colin Selby. Trent, were you surprised it was Selby?
No, because I think the Royals picked him up waivers earlier this season. And he was kind of a flyer, I guess. I mean, I think the Royals might have saw some in him, but it's not like he was a prospect by any means. He was a guy that was in the Pirate system last year.
Right. Nothing spectacular about his major league career. He had an ERA well over 5.5 down at Omaha, even though he was striking out close to 12 batters per 9. That was probably a guy they figured they could slip through waivers, and I don't know if they have or not. Have you seen? Do you know if they got him through waivers?
No. I know they got 10 days, and it's only been a couple days. I haven't seen anybody claim him off waivers just yet. I'll go check the transaction line, though.
Yeah, I don't know if he slipped through or if he was outrighted then to AAA. We'll see what happens, or if they requested waivers and they said, yeah, we're done with the whole Colin Selby experience. He did get in 2 games this year, so Colin Selby definitely one of the guys I'm going to forget on the Name the 2024 Royals Sporkle quiz when I take it in like 2028. Anyhow, Pennington makes his big league debut, does a nice job, gives his team a chance to win, cleans up the mess of one of the most inexplicably highly trusted relievers at this point in the Royals bullpen. And his reward was a trip back east to AAA. And I don't think that's a great message to send at this point in what is firmly a contention season for the Royals. Like, it's one thing to be good for a month, even 2. But if you get into July and you're this close to a playoff spot, this is a contention year. Even if it's an accidental contention year, a happy accident for the Royals, this is a contention year. And you have to treat it like one. And treating it like one means having your 26 best guys on the big league roster at all times. And Walter Pennington, even though it was only 1 outing, sure looked like one of the 26 best, at the very least one of the 13 best pitchers in the Royals organization after his debut. And I don't think it's a great message to send with the bullpen that has struggled so badly that doing your job gets you sent down. For what it's worth, John Schreiber has 3 minor league options. That's his full component of minor league options. Royals could send him down to the minor leagues at any time if they wanted. J.J. Piccolo could give Matt Quatrero the same speech that Billy Beane gives Art Howe in Moneyball. Anybody but Mags, first out of the pen. Anybody but Schreiber, first out of the pen. It's probably time for that speech at a bare minimum.
He should have pitched the 9th inning yesterday. Call him Johnny Low Leverage.
Yeah.
And the 9-run lead. If he blows that, I mean,
get him in the 8th at least, right? It was 7-1 in the 8th. Get him in there. No, not 7. Was it 7? Yeah, 7-1 in the 8th. Yeah. Who did they throw the 8th instead?
Zerpa.
Yeah, that's right. They gave Zerpa an inning.
Also been struggling.
Yes, like they needed to get Bubic some work, and I'm glad that they were able to get his first inning back. I'm sure is probably good to get that as a low leverage inning as well. Good for confidence. You know, it doesn't have to feel like he's got to walk a tightrope right away. But I don't love the message that sent to send Pennington down after his outing Friday night. But I do think there's another element of this that we have to remember is that we're dealing with human beings. We're not dealing with like collections of numbers on a stat sheet. If you sign a veteran reliever and then after 3 months you cut bait on that veteran reliever, a veteran reliever with a track record, a good one of success, like a Will Smith, like a Chris Stratton, you cut bait on those guys after half a season, after you sign them in the offseason, guess what happens the next time J.J. Piccolo calls the agent of a veteran relief pitcher and wants to talk money? That agent is going to say, well, how do I know you're not going to cut bait after half a bad season? How do I know my client's going to have a job for a full season? I want that security. I want that knowledge that you're going to treat our guy right. You're going to do right by my guy. That's a legitimate consideration that, you know, you probably don't think about that when you're sitting on the couch and you're calling Chris Stratton all kinds of a bum when he lets the first 2 guys get on base on Saturday before ultimately pitching out of the jam in the 1 inning of work that he got. He got a double play ground ball and ended up working a scoreless inning of relief in the 8th on Saturday. So that's a real consideration. And frankly, probably one of the reasons that Will Smith and Chris Stratton and Nick Anderson and John Schreiber remain on the big league roster as of today. But the flip side of that is you have hard decisions coming if the mission for J.J. Piccolo is to upgrade the bullpen from outside the organization, because you can't keep all of these guys on the 26-man. And as Colin Selby learned, there's starting to run out of room on the 40-man if you're going to bring in players from outside the organization. But then that got me thinking, Trenton. I started to wonder if the promotion and the conversion to relief for Chris Bubic and the cameos that we've seen for guys like Pennington, Will Klein, Carlos Hernandez, who, again, granted, he's not like Klein and Pennington. He's not a true rookie. I wonder if those things have been about the Royals making sure they cover all their bases with regard to internal relief upgrade options before they go outside the organization and make a move that would force their hand on somebody like Chris Stratton or somebody like Will Smith. And I'm also starting to wonder if it's an admission that We need offense more than we need bullpen help, and we may not have enough in terms of prospect capital to go get impactful offense and impactful relief help.
Yeah. I don't know if the Royals are comfortable blowing up too much of their farm system when this isn't really a year that they're a true World Series contender. I think there's only 4 teams in the MLB that are a true World Series contender. You're fighting for a playoff spot, but do you say, all right, I'm just going to use Garrett Crochet as an example. Obviously, the Royals aren't going to get him, but let's say I'm not going to get Garrett Crochet or here you go, Tanner Scott. That's a better example. I'm not going to go get Tanner Scott and give up Gavin Cross or some guy that has a lot of team control in the minors still just for a year or two of Tanner Scott or
a rental of a Carlos Estevez, somebody like that.
Yeah, I don't think the Royals are comfortable necessarily doing that. I think they're going to go out and try and get a guy that could be here next year and has team control for a certain amount of time.
That's probably the prudent course of action to take. If you're going to make an upgrade, if you're the Royals, I don't think you want to rent a player if what you're trying to do is earn a wild card spot. Now, maybe that's different. Maybe general managers have a different thought process now because of what the Diamondbacks did last year as a team that backdoored in as the last wild card team at 84 wins and then just caught a heater for a month and went to a World Series and were 3 wins away from winning a championship. Maybe you feel differently about the calculus of how much do we need to add to get to a level where we can win a championship? And how much is that going to cost us? And is it smart to push that many chips in if we feel like the pursuit is going to be maybe fruitless in the end? Because this is not 2015, right? Like the Royals approached the 2015 trade deadline, understanding that, look, our farm system is starting to thin out, but we've got still some impact guys. We can go and cash some chips in. We have a team that can win it all. We just won a pennant the year before. We know we're on the doorstep. We want to win the whole enchilada, and we have the ability to go get players that take us over the top. And so they went and got Johnny Cueto, and they went and got Ben Zobrist, and they were right. Those guys got him over the top. Maybe not Cueto in the regular season, but certainly Cueto in the playoffs. And Ben Zobrist is a guy that Royals fans still love to this day. Those were all-in moves that made sense in the context of how good the Royals already were and what it was going to cost to get to that next level. There's not really a comparable move that makes sense for these Royals to make, both in the context of where they are in their contention window and where they want to go long term. So there's not going to be like a Ben Zobrist type of trade this time around. There's not going to be a Johnny Cueto type of trade this time around. And Jeff Passan at ESPN wrote about this earlier today, talking about which general managers have the most pressure on them entering the trade deadline. And Jeff Passan asked the right question when it comes to J.J. Picollo. The question for Picollo is not whether the Royals are looking for upgrades. They are. But just how much talent they're willing to cede in an effort to make this postseason. Passan goes on. Because the Royals operate in a relatively low budget, the balance between free agents and homegrown players dictates that they can't afford to deplete prospect capital via trades, which limits their options. A mediocre farm system doesn't help matters. That's the biggest handicap right now that the Royals face, is the fact that they just don't have a lot of chips. They're just not, they don't have the depth in the minor league system where they feel like we can trade from depth, we can trade from minor league depth, and we can go get the sort of impact addition that might help us make up a 9-game deficit on Cleveland. Like, you're more than half the season away now. And that 9 games looks more and more daunting by the day, right? So if you're not chasing Cleveland and you're not chasing a top 2 seed, then what you're trying to get, if you're not trying to get a top 2 seed in the American League, you're trying to get into one of those wild card series where if you're a wild card, you're probably on, you're playing probably on the road, and you're playing a best of 3, and it's a crapshoot. So lower level additions are probably a little bit more realistic for the Royals, and not maybe those high end. Like, they're not going to go get Luis Robert. They're not going to go get Pete Alonso or Vlad Guerrero Jr. In all likelihood, because they don't have the prospect capital to go get a guy like that.
No, but they could move on from a guy like Drew Waters or Daniel Lynch the fourth or CJ Alexander and these quad 4 guys that are killing it at AAA this year that maybe you buy off of their stock and can flip them for a low level addition. That maybe teams are interested in, like, oh, well, maybe we can go fix Daniel Lynch the fourth or Drew Waters to be a serviceable MLB player for us. That might be a move, or guys that they could part ways with.
I don't like talking about can't and shouldn't when it comes to a Royals team that is finally playing some exciting baseball and finally giving us something fun to talk about as far as being in a contention year in July after years and years where that was emphatically not the case. So I don't like to be the negative guy, and I don't like to be the no, can't, don't, shouldn't, won't guy. But realistically speaking, there's only but so many chips the Royals have to push forward. And if they have only a few to push forward, I think they are probably better off going and trying to find, because I think they need 2 bats. I think this weekend Trenton showed the Royals are 2 bats shy. They need somebody to ignite at the top of the order, and they need somebody to lengthen the bottom of the order. And it's hard to go get 2 bats. The prospect cost to go get 2 guys that can help you, even if it was, one-stop shopping. You go to the Angels and you say, okay, a healthy Luis Rengifo, if he were healthy, which him not being healthy complicates things in that regard. But like his profile and like Taylor Ward's profile, you got to get both of those guys. And all of a sudden, you've got a solution at second or third base. You've got a solution in left field, and you've lengthened your lineup successfully because those are 2 good hitters. But that might be a painful trade because that probably is going to cost you a Gavin Cross, or it might cost you a Caden Wallace, or it might cost you a Ben Cadurna. And is that worth it if the pursuit is for a wild card spot? And is that a different answer now than it would have been 5 years ago before the playoffs expanded?
Yeah, I think the Royals are. You got to take your eyes off the division. That's what this series taught me. If you're struggling to beat the bottom of the barrel teams in MLB, you're not going to ever gain any ground on the Guardians because they don't lose a whole lot, first off. And then when you're losing series that you should probably be winning and you're struggling with these teams, maybe you condense your hopes on making the playoffs. All right, let's go fight for a wild card. We're right in the wild card race. There's plenty of teams that are playing up and down right now.
Like, yeah, 3 spots open, and look, like the teams that are fighting for it, they're all flawed, right? Like Minnesota's caught a heater, and Boston has, sure, but like New York has stepped in a puddle.
Yeah, they're only 6 games behind the Yankees for the first wild card spot. When they were the second wild card team, when they were still going hot, and Baltimore was the wild card team, they were 8 games behind Baltimore when they were the second wild card. So that's already closer, and they're not even in the playoff field right now. The Royals aren't. So, yeah, maybe you can catch the Yankees.
It's entirely possible. Like the playoffs are still out there for the taking. So the Royals are going to do something. I have no doubt in my mind they are going to upgrade this team. They are constricted into how many or how much of an upgrade they can make, how many upgrades they can make because of their limited prospect capital. And I really think that the way that they've manipulated some of their AAA relievers, the way they've given some guys some looks, now they're giving Chris Bubich a look, that suggests to me that they are hopeful that there's an internal upgrade in the bullpen that will make them more able to use whatever prospect capital they do have and focus on the offense. Because what I have seen here in this stretch where they've gone from 15 over 500 to 6 over 500, they were 5 over 500 before they won yesterday. It's not been the starting pitching. The bullpen hasn't been great, but again, you're asking them to walk a tightrope. They're not scoring enough runs. You cannot score 3 runs in 2 nights in Coors Field against the worst pitching staff in baseball and say we've got enough offense. They've got to go get more offense.
They're really good at being consistently inconsistent. And going into yesterday, during their 5-game losing streak on the road, the Royals were averaging a grand total of 1 run per game during that 5-game road losing streak.
Yeah, you don't win a lot of games scoring 1 run.
Especially when those 5 games are the Rangers and the Rockies and Coors.
Yeah, you don't win a lot of games scoring 1 run, no matter how good. You have 2 all-star starters at the top of your rotation, and Reagans and Lugo were both very good on Friday and Saturday. But you got to score to win, and the Royals don't score enough because they don't get guys on base in front of their best hitters because their leadoff spot's been a black hole, And once you get by about the 5th spot in the order, once you get past Massey and lately Renfro, you had a lot of automatic outs at the back. I think they're 2 bats away. I think they can go add some bats. I would like to see them. I really think Taylor Ward makes a lot of sense. You threw out Jazz Chisholm. I think that's going to be a little too expensive.
And I just saw that there was a rumor, and it's from Jack Johnson. He said Craig Mish of the Sports Grid and the Miami Herald reports that there's a growing belief Jazz Chisholm Jr. will also be traded. Matt Mish lists the Mariners as a club to watch if Chisholm is moved, and also suggests the Pirates and Royals could join the bidding. And Chisholm was a shortstop that got moved to center field, so he could play the infield, he could play the outfield for you.
Not a great defensive center fielder. He hasn't taken to the position switch.
But you can move him to left.
You could play him in left field, hits for power, steals bases, incredibly fun player. Some questions about durability, but he's played in 87 games this year, so this is as healthy as he's been. I like the player. I think he might cost an arm and a leg. And he's only this 2 more years of team control after this one. But that would be a guy I'd say I'd push some chips forward for, because not only can he help your playoff push in 2024, he can help you in 25 and 26 too, because he's only 26. He's only going to get better. That would be a guy I would say, yeah, if you want to trade a Gavin Cross, Ben Caderna type of package to go get a guy who can help you long term, maybe Jazz is the guy. And I just love the player. Like, I love watching him play. He's only a 102 OPS plus. He's a roughly league average hitter. But again, that's such an upgrade from what the Royals have gotten in the outfield this year that average would feel wonderful compared to, watching what MJ Melendez and Kyle Isbell have done for the better part of this season. We're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. On the other side, we are starting the week of What Is Wrong With You from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. This is 580 Sports Talk. It is that time of day. We bring you 2 new What Is Wrong With You stories. Our first stories for this second week of July. I've got a story. Trenton's got a story. I'm going to lead off and take us to Springfield, Missouri, where a Springfield man has been charged after hijacking a woman's car. 28-year-old Jacob Gregory charged with vehicle hijacking and resisting arrest. On July 1st, a woman was leaving work near Ozark Technical Community College when Gregory and another man flagged her down for a ride. The woman agreed to drive the 2 men to the Come and Go gas station near the intersection of Chestnut Expressway and National Avenue. The woman told investigators she did not know the 2 men. I don't know about you, Trent. I don't give strangers a ride as a matter of course. Like, I'm not driving for Uber. I'm not driving for Lyft. You try and flag me down and ask for a ride, I'm leaving my windows rolled up. I'm not doing it. And I think this story will be evidence as to why.
Yeah, do they not teach stranger danger anymore?
I guess not. I guess in this day and age where anybody can be a taxi driver, like anybody can be an Uber or a Lyft, people take for granted that, yeah, strangers will give me a ride. And this stranger agreed to give these 2 strange men a ride. Investigators say while the woman was driving in preparation to turn onto National Avenue, Gregory told her he had a gun and told her to keep driving or he would shoot her. Authorities say traffic was congested at this time, which caused the woman to stop the car and sit in traffic. The woman then began trying to call 911. At the same time, Gregory got out of the car and went around to the driver's side to hijack it. Very single-minded in his pursuit of hijacking this car, and did not stop to take a look at his surroundings when he could have seen that there was a Greene County deputy driving by as he was trying to hijack this car at gunpoint. The deputy turned on his patrol lights. According to court documents, Gregory was seemingly unaware of the deputy and continued trying to hijack the car. The deputy's dash camera caught the entire encounter. Authorities say after a brief struggle, Gregory got the woman out of the car and was able to get into the driver's seat and reverse the car a short distance. Again, they're in traffic, nowhere to go. The woman then flagged down the deputy. Sir, officer, got a problem. Gregory saw this and got out of the car. The other person with Gregory pushed Gregory away from the car. Authorities say the other person did not agree with Gregory's actions. Man, I just needed a ride. I didn't know you were getting all crazy with the gun. The deputy made contact with Gregory and was attempting to arrest him, but Gregory ran away. He was eventually arrested several blocks away from the intersection. During an interview with police, Gregory kept making numerous spontaneous utterances regarding what happened, probably along the lines of, I'm an idiot. Why'd I do that? There was a cop right there. I'm dumb. I'm going to jail. Utterances like that. Anyway, that's our first story today. Gentlemen, hijacked the car at gunpoint right in front of a sheriff's deputy's vehicle.
Did you ever play GTA, any of the GTA games?
Here and there. I never owned one, but yeah, I'm familiar enough.
That sounds like you trying to carjack someone on GTA and the cops driving by, and then you're immediately arrested.
You get points for that, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, a little bit, but
Yeah.
It sounds like straight out of a video game.
All right, that's our first story today. For our second story, Trenton, you're taking us to Florida.
Yep. A Florida man charged with robbery after trying to withdraw a penny from a bank. A man in Sumter County tried to withdraw 1 cent from a bank where he did not have an account, with the goal of being arrested, deputies said. So, Sumter County and Lady Lake, Florida, a man was charged with a felony for felony robbery. Michael Fleming, 41, filled out a withdrawal slip for 1 cent at a Chase Bank in Sumter County on June 29th. When the bank teller told him he could not give him the penny, his arrest report reads that he said, "So you want me to say the other word?"
What is the other word?
I'm going to assume, give me the money, like he's trying to rob him.
Yeah.
The bank teller, who was scared that the situation would turn violent, called law enforcement. When deputies spoke to Fleming, he said, most of the time, the way tellers are trained, if someone comes in to rob you, you give them money and let them go, according to the report. Fleming said when he didn't receive the penny, he just waited in the lobby and said his goal was to be arrested. He was charged with robbery and booked in the Sumter County Detention Center on a $5,000 bond, according to the jail's database. That's it. I mean, man just said, I want 1 penny. Okay. You're not going to give me the penny. I'll just sit here and wait for the cops to come.
So,
then
I'm going to guess if he said he had the goal to be arrested, I don't know. I don't want to assume, but he may be in some circumstances where it would be preferable to be in prison than to be maybe not in prison.
Yes, that's what I was thinking as I read the story.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to assume that that's the case, but that's going to, as wild as it is to walk in and hold up a bank over a penny, I do wonder if maybe his circumstances were such that he really legitimately wanted the hot in the cot, so to speak, and needed that in a way that made that preferable to staying out of jail. So with that in mind, I'm going to lean today with the gentleman who hijacked a car in front of a sheriff's deputy.
Yeah, I thought that story was better anyway. It gives a video game feel.
It
almost.
really does. Grand Theft Auto, GTA Kentucky edition. GTA Kentucky would be a wild game. I that would be like what's beyond MA, rated M for mature. Like what goes beyond that? That would be what you would have to rate GTA Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean,
play the whole game with a moonshine filter, something along those lines. Your characters,
you're wearing drunk goggles.
Yeah, your character wears jorts, the whole thing. That's going to be our winner for today, GTA Kentucky. That's our first weekly winner on What Is Wrong With You. When we come back, Big 12 Media Days start tomorrow. We're going to take stock of the state of the Big 12 going into Big 12 Media Days, which is dramatically different than where we stood not 2 years ago. That's next on this edition of 580 Sports Talk. .445 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Trenton holding it down. Brendan and Spencer will be along in a bit. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, we got our 580 Sports Talk headlines and a very interesting development from the world of televised sports that might be a path forward for Major League Baseball teams and NBA and NHL teams that could mean a free local streaming service. We always ask people, how much would you pay to stream the Kansas City Royals? What about free? There's one NHL team that's going to make that an option next season. We'll tell you about that. Also, Trenton is going to play Trivia Master coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. We're going to play Name That Guy. And I'm very excited for the first ever round of Name That Guy. I have always secretly tried to or hoped to introduce some kind of a trivia element to 580 Sports Talk. I don't mean to sound like I'm bragging, but I'm going to brag a little bit. I'm really good at trivia. I'm really good at sports trivia. I'm really good. And if you want proof, I can send you guys my immaculate grid scores every day. I have a gift for remembering guys. So looking forward to Trent being the quiz master, and we're all going to get to play Name That Guy coming up in the 4 o'clock or the 5 o'clock hour here of 580 Sports Talk. Tomorrow's Big 12 Media Day. It's in Las Vegas. It's not in Dallas. So 580 Sports Talk will not be on site. Couldn't make it work this year. We'll try and make it to Vegas next year. I am not all that sad that I will not be sitting in 120-degree weather on a tarmac on an airplane today. That doesn't make me sad. This is an amazing detail from Mountain West Media Days, which are also in Las Vegas. So they're being held at Circa Las Vegas. And if you are underage, you're not allowed in. And they're not making any exceptions. Not even for arguably the best football player in the Mountain West Conference. Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty is not yet 21 years old. So he can't get in to where all of the media stuff and all of the interviews are being done for Mountain West Conference Media Days. So he's going to go next door to the Golden Gate Casino where you can get in if you're under 21, and he's going to do all his interviews there. Again, this is the best player probably. I think he's the best player in the conference, Ashton Jeanty.
You got to make an exception.
I think so. I think Circa's got to have a little feel here, right? What's he going to do? He's there to work.
That's like saying, all right, Patrick Mahomes, you're not allowed in because for whatever reason, it's like, why would you not want to have your best player represent your brand?
That's so wild. That is really, really funny that the Mountain West is holding their media days in a place where they can't let underage people in. That's very, very funny. Anyhow, Big 12 Media Days, I think they're at the Bellagio. The media hotel is the Bellagio. I am not 100%. They're at Allegiant Stadium. They're not at one of the stadium. They're not at one of the casinos. They're at Allegiant Stadium. So they're doing the big stadium show, just like they've done the last couple of years where they've been at Jerry World in Arlington. They'll just be down on the field at the big Roomba Allegiant Stadium. It has been a long, strange trip these last 3 years for this Big 12 football conference, hasn't it, folks? I don't know if you remember what Brett Yormark had to say. I was there in 2022 when Brett Yormark, who was not yet officially the Big 12 commissioner. He had not officially, at the time of the 2022 Big 12 Football Media Days, taken over from Bob Bowlesby. So Bob Bowlesby addressed the media first. He had the first press conference. Then he introduced Brett Yormark, and Brett Yormark got to speak. And this is what Brett Yormark said. We're close to 2 years to the day. Quote, what excites me most about joining the Big 12 is the transformative moment in front of all of us today. We have an opportunity to grow and build the Big 12 brand and business, be aspirational, define our point of difference, all while never losing our commitment to always compete and develop our student athletes at the highest levels. Moments like these do not happen often, and we must seize them and make the most of them. It will require incredible work and collaboration. One thing is for sure, there is no doubt, these were the words that everybody took away from this press conference. This was the soundbite. There is no doubt the Big 12 is open for business. We will leave no stone unturned to drive value for the conference. Just as I pledged to the board, we will be bold and humble, aggressive and thoughtful, and innovative and creative, all in an effort to position the conference in a way that not only grows the Big 12 brand and business, but makes us a bit more contemporary. The Big 12 was open for business 2 years ago today. That was the stance of the Big 12. They knew that they were going to lose Oklahoma and Texas. They were going to add BYU and UCF and Houston and Cincinnati. And Brett Yormark made it very clear that that is not where the Big 12 was willing to shop. By the way, does anybody remember which conference commissioner responded to that at his own conference's media days by saying, yeah, I've heard the Big 12 is open for business, and we haven't decided if we're going to go shopping there yet or not? You remember who said that?
It was the guy from the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was George Klevakov.
Yep.
It was George Klevikoff, the former commissioner of the conference formerly known as the Pac-12. It was a good line at the time. It looks really bad in retrospect. So that was Brett Yormark 2 years ago. Brett Yormark a year ago was crowing a little bit because the Big 12 had beaten the Pac-12 to the negotiating table. They'd secured their media rights deal, and they felt like they had a very stable group of 12 teams moving forward beyond the end of Oklahoma and Texas's relationship with the league. And then, of course, all hell broke loose late July and August. And now we have the Big 12 as we currently know it, with Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah joining the league. So has the brand and business of the Big 12 grown? Oh, hell yes, it has. Absolutely. You've gone from a 10-team league not that long ago to a 16-team league. And those additions have all made sense. They have all added to the competitive level of the league. There's not this is not like none of the additions that the Big 12 has made are like the ACC adding SMU. It's not addition for the sake of addition. None of this has been addition for the sake of addition. These are all schools and programs that make the Big 12 better, that put the Big 12 on better footing than it was when it was just a 10-team league on the verge of potential extinction. But the other thing that Yormark brought up that day, and it was the thing that Yormark said that really stuck with me leaving Arlington after the end of the 2022 Big 12 Media Days. Has the Big 12 defined its point of difference? What is it about the Big 12 that makes it distinct? What is it about the Big 12 that sets it apart, if not above, at least apart from what we now kind of start to consider the power two of the SEC and the Big Ten? At first, I thought it was going to be about basketball. I felt like, especially given the open courtship of Gonzaga and UConn, that Brett Yormark was going to lean into the idea of the Big 12 as the basketball league. But I now think, given the additions from the Pac-12, that point of difference that Brett Yormark talked about 2 years ago at Big 12 Football Media Days really stems from stability and everybody holding the rope and pulling in the same direction in a way that the ACC can't claim, and in a way that it doesn't necessarily feel like the SEC and the Big Ten are able to do as well. What do you think, Brendan Dworzinski, who rejoins the program? What do you think the Big 12's point of difference is at this point as we get ready for Big 12 Media Day 2024?
I'm right there with you. Everybody has the same common goal. Institutionally has the same common goal. Like, okay, KU emphasizing football a lot more recently, but KU is a basketball program. Utah is a football school. They are not interested in men's basketball all that much, but institutionally trying to accomplish the same thing, wanting to be in the right spot in terms of finances, in terms of competitiveness, in terms of national exposure. That is what the Big 12 has. Frankly, that's what the Big 12 has more than either the Big 10 or the SEC, to be completely honest with you. Because you know what the Big 12's not talking about? And you don't have sitting Big 12 commissioners talking about? Well, we got to make sure that we are caught up financially so we don't get kicked out of the conference. We had that quote, 2 weeks ago from Josh Whitman, the AD at Illinois, saying, well, we got to make sure that if they make it a super league that we're included. Nobody in the Big 12 is in that spot. Everybody, to use the phrase you used, everybody is pulling on the rope in the same direction. Everybody is working together for one common goal that I think this 16-team group is kind of in a unique position to do that even last year's or 2 years ago's Big 12 editions really couldn't do. And certainly not those other conferences.
Brett Yormark speaks to the media tomorrow at noon. We'll play it in its entirety for you on tomorrow's edition of 580 Sports Talk. We got to take a break. One more hour of the show to come from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. This is 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Monday afternoon. Thanks for being with us. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online worldwide at 580WIBW.com. I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski is here. Spencer Dupuis is here. Spence, what's up, big dog?
Hey! Hey!
The gang's all here. Trent Kraxner, producer engineer, is across the glass. In case you missed by way of expository earlier on, there's some things going on at Alpha Media Topeka. People are being asked to take on some different things, some added responsibilities. And so the end result of that, at least for the short term and the impact that it has on our show, is that this is still the crew, Brendan, Dan, and Spencer. This is still the crew. It's just, sometimes it'll be all three of us, and sometimes it'll be two of the three of us, and sometimes it might be only one, but we'll all be around.
Yep.
And we're not going anywhere. We're all gainfully employed, showing up every morning to work. So you don't have to worry about us. We're all here. We're all working hard to make a great radio show for you and make a great radio station for you as well. This is all stuff that benefits the greater good, benefits 580, benefits Alpha Media Topeka. And like I said, 580 Sports Talk's going to keep rocking until the wheels fall off. It might just be my voice for a segment or two. It might be all three of us for an entire day. It'll be a bit of a grab bag. It's like watching a sitcom. Like, not every character, Michael Scott is not in every scene of The Office, right? Homer Simpson is not on every scene of The Simpsons. That's animation, but you get the idea.
Same thing. Animated sitcom.
We have a cast of characters, and you will hear from all of us.
Yeah, and you're right, Dan. Things are a little bit different, and times that happens. Sometimes you get asked to take on more things. It's because we're all very capable of doing a number of things, but you're still going to hear from us plenty. What we do is not going to change. We're going to talk Chiefs. We're going to talk KU, K-State, Royals baseball. We're going to have high school football and basketball all year. We're going to have Washburn football, basketball over on our sister stations. It is occasionally going to sound a little bit different just in terms of the voices you hear segment to segment, but we're here and we're doing everything we can. And I know I speak for all of us, Trenton included. We are doing everything we can to make sure nothing changes practically about 580 Sports Talk, and you guys still get to listen to what is, and I'm boasting, but it's also a fact, the single best sports talk radio show in the state of Kansas. And we thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us.
And it ain't going anywhere. I can tell you that right now.
No
580 Sports Talk's going to stay on the airwaves. We're going to rock till the wheels fall off. And we appreciate your patronage, your listenership, your YouTube subscribing, your text to the Top City Mail Supply text line, every way that you interact with and interact to the show or react to the show. We appreciate it and keep it coming.
And speaking of the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, go subscribe. As we get closer to the start of football season, so much more is going to be pumped out. We'll have season previews for Washburn. We'll talk plenty of Chiefs over there. Our KU and K-State recaps, all at the 580 Sports Talk YouTube. I've got to commend you, because even while things have been janky and people have been in and out over the last week or more, the innovation does not stop, and Trenton Cam has been a major asset to the YouTube stream.
We love Trenton Cam, don't we, folks?
No, we really do.
Also, speaking of growing the YouTube page, we're planning on maybe putting out some little short videos of me and Dan are going to be in cahoots over the coming weeks about maybe pushing out some. Is that not the right term?
No,
that's totally acceptable. Okay. It just makes it sound like we're like pulling a caper,
like comes from a James Cagney movie. Yeah. See? Yeah, that's essentially what it sounds like. But no, there's so much good stuff over there. And again, nothing content-wise is changing. We're still doing all of our great stuff, and would appreciate you if you check out the YouTube, subscribe while you're over there, and of course, keep listening here on 580 WIBW.
We really do appreciate you guys being with us, and we appreciate you listening on a day-to-day basis or whenever you get a chance. We appreciate you guys being along, guys and girls being along for the program today. Coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, Trenton's going to put on the Quizmaster hat. We're going to play Name That Guy.
Yes!
This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for that.
Let's go.
Also going to talk about a new innovation in televising sporting events in a pro team's local market. How's free sound? Free to the consumer.
Sounds great.
I'm here for it.
So we'll talk about which NHL team is doing that and whether maybe that makes sense for other teams that are about to maybe not be on Bally Sports for much longer. But we start the 5 o'clock hour as we do every day with our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we begin with the Major League Baseball All-Star rosters. 4 Royals are heading to Arlington for the All-Star game. Bobby Witt Jr. making his first All-Star appearance of his career, while Salvador Perez will be a 9-time All-Star, as both were selected as reserves for the American League. 2 Royals pitchers make the game as well. Seth Lugo and Cole Reagans both make their first career All-Star appearances, with Lugo the front runner to perhaps start the All-Star game for the American League. The All-Star reserves in their entirety were announced yesterday at 4:30 Central Time on a Sunday. Great job promoting your game, Major League Baseball. Once again, Rob Manfred, you've done it again. The pitchers for the American League: Los Angeles Angels lefty Tyler Anderson, Baltimore's Corbin Burns, Chicago's Garrett Crochet, Seattle's Logan Gilbert, Boston's Tanner Houck, Detroit's Tarek Skubal, and the aforementioned Lugo and Reagans are your starting pitchers. In the bullpen, Cleveland's Emmanuel Clase, New York's Clay Holmes, Oakland's Mason Miller, and Texas's Kirby Yates. The pitchers for the National League: Los Angeles Dodgers' Tyler Glasnow leads a list with a lot of first-timers. Among the other starters are Chicago's Shota Imanaga, Atlanta's Ronaldo Lopez, and Chris Sale. Pittsburgh's Paul Skeens, the rookie, 10 starts into his career. He's an all-star. Philadelphia's Ranger Suarez, San Francisco's Logan Webb, and Philadelphia's Zach Wheeler rounding out the starting pitchers. The relievers: St. Louis's Ryan Helsley, the National League saves leader. A pair of Phillies setup men, Jeff Hoffman and former Royal Matt Strom, Tanner Scott of Miami, and Robert Suarez of San Diego. Those are your all-star pitchers. Reserves: at catcher, Salvador Perez in the American League. We mentioned him. Will Smith in the National League. Home runs in 4 consecutive at-bats over the weekend, tying a Major League record.
So this is a story about why gambling responsibly is important. I've got a close friend who likes to put a shekel or two down on a game. Big no-run first inning bettor. Loves to parlay it, bird cage, round robin, all of it. Loves the no-run first inning bet.
The Nerfy, if you will.
Yes.
The NRFI.
Lost his parlay the other day when Will Smith went crazy. Had a few games parlayed, and he's like, man, I've been ice cold. You know what? I'm going to put a bigger bet just on the Dodger game. No run first inning.
That always works.
Will Smith, home run. He's upset. This is a true story. He's upset. God, I need a win. I've been ice cold for a week. Fine. No run third inning. I'm putting it all. Everything I've lost, I'm going double or nothing. I'm putting it all. No run third inning of the Dodgers game. Then Will Smith walked to the plate and hit his second of 3 home runs in the game.
When in doubt, double down.
He then...
No!
The opposite, Trent. The opposite. He then texted me right after and said, I had to go into my DraftKings account and put myself in timeout. I had to ask them to give me a timeout warning because I need to stop.
That's what those tools are there for.
That is responsible eventually.
All right. So the poor guy, Will Smith. Yeah, he's
ruining my best friend's life.
The infielders for the American League All-Star reserves: Minnesota's Carlos Correa, Boston's Rafael Devers, Cleveland's Josh Naylor, Tampa Bay's Isaac Paredes, and Texas's Marcus Semien joining the aforementioned Bobby Witt Jr. Over the National League, a few first-time All-Stars: Washington's C.J. Abrams, Cincinnati's Ellie Dela Cruz, and Colorado's Ryan McMahon. Pete Alonso, Luis Arraez, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, also All-Stars. Betts and Freeman, 8-time All-Stars. Your American League outfield reserves: Boston's Jarren Duran, Detroit's Riley Green, and Houston's Kyle Tucker. Tucker won't play in the game. He's hurt. The National League has 4 All-Star reserve outfielders: Los Angeles' Teoscar Hernandez, San Diego's Jackson Merrill, the youngest All-Star this year, only 21 years old, San Francisco's Helio Ramos, and Pittsburgh's Brian Reynolds. The reserve DHs are Cleveland's David Fry and Atlanta's Marcell Ozuna. Speaking of Ozuna, he's one of 3 players that has announced in the last 24 hours that he'll be part of the Home Run Derby, joining the previously announced Gunnar Henderson. Pete Alonso headed back to the Home Run Derby. Trenton called the Home Run Derby Pete Alonso's Super Bowl earlier this year, which is extremely funny. And Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be in the Home Run Derby as well. The Royals shortstop will be a part of the Derby, the 5th Royal to participate in the Derby, joining Salvador Perez, Mike Moustakas, Danny Tartabull, and Bo Jackson. That's your first sports headline of the day. Brendan, what you got?
Number 1 for me today, Dan, it is watch list season for college football. All sorts of annual award watch lists are being put out including one today that includes both head coaches for programs in the state of Kansas. The Dodd Trophy, that is, of course, named for the great Bobby Dodd. It is one of the coveted National Coach of the Year awards, and both Chris Kleiman of K-State and Lance Leipold of KU have been included on this year's preseason Bobby Dodd Award watch list. There will be a mid-season watch list as well, when some names will be trimmed, some names will be added. A panel consisting of previous winners, national media, a member of the Dodd family, and a College Football Hall of Fame member will identify the final list, and then they will announce the winner during the week of the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in Atlanta. This is, if I'm not mistaken, not the first time that either of these head coaches have been included on the Dodd Award watch list. We will have these continue to come out for all the different awards, the Bednarik, the Nagurski, the Bolitnikoff, the Doak Walker, all of those. And I will give you a little preview right now. If I do not see the name and the words Devin Neal, Kansas on the Doak Walker preseason watch list, I'm going to freak out. But that's a me problem. That's not an anyone else problem. But yes, be tuned for more of these coming out in the coming weeks. You were saying it earlier, talking about media days, which begin tomorrow in Las Vegas.
Tomorrow, not today. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We have hit the time of year when it feels like, all right, let's shift into college football mode. The Phil Steele magazines came out recently, got those locked and loaded. Now we've got media days. Now we've got the watch lists. Fall camp is going to begin soon. And we are, and Trenton, we did the math on this earlier today before we went on the air. We're something like 52 days from
52.
kickoff? Yeah, 52 days
for KU
kickoff.
and Washburn.
Yeah, so
Wow.
It's getting close.
Don't know when K-State's first game is. Are they playing on Friday or Saturday?
They play a Friday starter, or do they play Saturday?
Saturday, because they play 2 weeks.
That's
on
right.
So 54 days for K-State football to kick off.
Yeah, so we are we're getting close. We are getting really August 31st is when the Cats will kick it off. KU a couple days before that. So we are very excited about that. And Lance Leipold, the first of probably multiple Coach of the Year watch lists for him and Chris Kleiman that they'll be included on this offseason.
All right, Spencer, what's your first headline today?
We'll stay in college ranks. We'll move to hoops. Former Kansas forward Parker Brown will play with the Denver Nuggets in the NBA Summer League this summer. His older brother or
Younger brother, which is the amazing thing.
Christian.
That's a typo in the thing. That's my bad.
No, I'm reading this off something else.
I got
His
you.
younger brother Christian, a KU national champ, is a starter for the Nuggets. So
A projected starter, right?
Yeah, he will move into the starting lineup after Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signed with the Orlando Magic. So
Yes.
the Nuggets are betting big on Christian Brown in 2024-25.
I mean, they did when they took him 21st overall, when we all thought like 27 or later, like 27 to 35 would probably make a lot of sense for CB. He's the 21st pick on him, and he has been good. Maybe not great he's a good player. He's a very useful NBA player. It helps to have a sibling who's in the NBA.
Yeah.
Parker Brown, by all accounts, and Bill Self has said this, the nicest guy, like the nicest, sweetest kid he's ever coached. And which was what made it amazing the one time he dunked and then yelled at an opponent. Like, well, I didn't know he had that in him. I think Parker Brown is going to go very far in life with whatever he wants to do, unless that thing is play forward in the NBA.
You think he's going to go pro in something other than sports?
I don't think he's going to get an Exhibit 10 after this. I don't think he's getting a two-way.
For whatever it's worth, he is the tallest player on the Nuggets Summer League roster, so could get some minutes at center. Him and former Clemson star P.J. Hall. Summer League rosters are always a trip. Adonis Arms, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's kicking around somebody's Summer League roster.
Yeah, I saw that the other night. I saw someone tweet,
Kings.
wow, the Kings, yeah. I saw someone say, wow, that's a great name. And I thought, yeah, you
Real-
might think it's new if you hadn't watched Texas Tech.
Yeah, real Big 12 heads.
Yeah, we know.
We knew who Adonis Arms was.
Man, that would have been a great remember some guys activity. Just go through Summer League rosters and just see how many of these dudes do we remember from the Big 12.
I saw a funny tweet about this Parker Brown on the Nuggets Summer League. Someone said, LeBron gets Bronny, Christian gets Parker.
Yeah. Well, we were joking about that earlier, that if you think that nepotism is new, I have some words for you. Love to inform you that is not the case.
I just pulled up a random team, the Thunder. I just pulled up their Summer League roster for 2024. Buddy Boeheim, anyone?
Oh, my God. Yeah, there you go. There's nepotism for you.
He's maybe the third most annoying white dude. Oh, maybe fourth, depending on how you feel about Miller Kopp. Also, Cormac Ryan is on this team. Also, Jack Golke is on this team.
I did know that he was going to play summer.
That's
somewhere.
the dude.
Man, I thought Cormac Ryan had another year.
No, Cormac Ryan is on the Thunder Summer League roster. Keontae Johnson, of course, drafted by the Thunder last year. He's on that roster. Trey Mitchell from Kentucky is on this team. Jaquan Walton from Memphis, who also played for like 5 other colleges. Adam Flagler, Baylor great.
Man, we're going to run out. Well, I don't know. I guess guys could still play wherever they wanted for 4 years, but we're going to probably run out of the guys who have played for 5 schools at some point.
Can you guess a Kansas legend that's on the Boston Celtics Summer League team? And no, it's not Svi Mykhailiuk.
It's not Svi. How recent are we talking here?
2019, 2020 guy.
1920.
James Sosinski.
No,
he went pro in something other than sports, I believe.
Long time ago.
He didn't finish at KU.
He did not finish it.
Charlie Moore?
Tristan and Aruna.
Anyone? Tristan and Aruna.
Hey, good for him.
For CJ Moore, the #1 Tristan and Aruna fan in America, is probably very excited to know that. Well, good for him. I'm glad he's doing something. Good for him.
Next headline for me as we keep it moving here on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. As it was expected after he spurned advances from the Los Angeles Lakers, UConn head men's basketball coach Dan Hurley has himself a fat new contract extension. 6 years, $50 million to stay in stores through the 2029-30 season. That's before performance-based incentives kick in. Hurley reportedly rejected 6 years, $70 million from the Lakers. I think I'd rather coach in college for $50 million than coach, particularly the 2024-25 Lakers, for any amount of money. That is going to be the circus of circuses. We've never seen anything like the circus that's about to be in the NBA.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's going to be a disaster. I don't know what those performance bonuses are, poor English, for Danny Hurley. Does that seem low to you guys? Because that seems kind of low to me for the base. Like, given what he was reportedly offered by the Lakers and the fact that Kentucky wanted him, that the Los Angeles Lakers wanted him, I thought Hurley was going to get 10 plus a year.
So the structure of this is really interesting. His base salary is $400,000 a year. And the additional compensation for speaking, consulting, and media obligations is where he's really getting paid. The additional compensation begins at $6.375 million for next year.
Jeez.
That's for speaking, consulting, and like doing his coach's show. He will also get a retention bonus of $1 million per year, which because they're like, if he leaves stores, it'll be his choice.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. Doing just a per year basis, I believe this would make him the second. Well, this is actually old information. I've got info here from USA Today, but it's from March 13th. So right before Selection Sunday. So Calipari is still listed as at Kentucky, which he is not now. Bill Self, I think, is still the highest per year, though, unless Cal passed him with his new contract at Arkansas. Because I don't think Hurley would pass him. So Bill Self still rules the roost in terms of highest paid coaches in the country. Man, what a fascinating coaching carousel it's been for college hoops. I think if I was the guy who does the coaches show, I don't know if that's their play-by-play guy or studio host or whatever who does the coaches show for UConn, I'm going to my bosses and saying, I'm talking to the $6 million man and I'm making X? Nah, man, right. I need N plus X.
Yeah.
I need a little bit more here, brother.
If this show's worth 6 figures to him, it's going to be worth a little bit more to me.
Yeah, no kidding.
A little bit more than, I don't know, a free plate of wings at Wing Hut in stores or wherever it is that they do it. All right, next headline, Spencer.
Next headline. How do we?
Oh wait,
yeah, I got
Brendan. You got next.
I was about to say. I was just like, I just went.
Man, I'm gone for a day and one segment.
My bad. We're out of practice.
Here is a fascinating bit from an interview that Tim Pernetti, who is the new commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, he replaced long-tenured commissioner Mike Oresco, who retired this offseason. So he did an interview in the Commercial Appeal. That is the major newspaper in Memphis, Tennessee. And he did this interview, Pernetti did, and was talking about NIL and how to, keep up with the Joneses and all that. So the question posed to him was, new Memphis Athletic Director Ed Scott said the Tigers athletic department would opt into revenue sharing with athletes. Is that something that's been discussed conference-wide? Here's what the commissioner of the AAC said. Everybody has their own point of view. I think some institutions in our conference are resourced in different ways than others. What we want to try to avoid is creating competition and gaps in our own league. For instance, and I'm just throwing it out there, the idea of us discussing as a membership, and I think we will, the prospect of revenue sharing within our conference. And should we have an agreed upon conference cap for revenue sharing to try to create as much of a level playing field as we possibly can? Nothing is off the table on that front. The American, again, under Mike Oresco, was pretty good at staying on the cutting edge of things because that was truly a cast-off conference. Like all the, if there's realignment, I'm sure next you'll be in a power conference. All those teams are in the American still to this day. And that a lot of those teams have moved on. I mean, the 3 that joined the Big 12 a year ago. I think this is fascinating because if you were to do something like this and say, NIL spending and revenue sharing and all of that, we're going to cap it for the entire conference, you would create an incredible amount of parity, I think. I mean, artificially created. You don't have to do something like this, and you're probably limiting earning power, so I don't know how that would work legally. I don't know that it would work legally. But the thing you are also committing then, or essentially conceding, we're not going to compete with the big dogs. Like if we're saying we're going to limit us at $20 million or whatever it ends up being per school, fine. But then you are agreeing to essentially being a minor league conference relative to the power of the bigger leagues. For some conferences, that might make sense. The American might have a small enough amount of power that it actually makes some sense to do that. I don't know if other leagues would be willing to do that, but I'll tell you this much. I bet you Brett Yormark has had conversations with the presidents and chancellors of the Big 12 schools to ask, hey, what do you think about revenue sharing? Let me throw out a bunch of ideas and see what you guys think about this. If the guy's willing to sell part of the league to private equity, I'm sure he has brought that up.
Yeah, I don't know how a salary cap for NIL revenue is going to work, particularly if there are schools in that conference, Memphis, that might be willing to throw big money to be nationally relevant in a sport that is really important to them, basketball. Like, I don't know if they're going to go for that. I don't know how far this is going to go. I mean, I don't blame him for running it up the flagpole, trying to create some stability in that league. But I don't see every athletic director saluting. Let's just say that. Now it's your turn, Spencer. You got a headline for us?
There we go. I have one. This is per Ian Rappaport of NFL Media. Steelers cornerback Cameron Sutton is suspended without pay for the first 8 games of the 2024 season for violating the NFL's personal conduct policy. The NFL investigated the March incident involving Sutton and determined he violated that policy. He'll be eligible for reinstatement on October 29th. So that puts him down a cornerback. Maybe you think about picking up Stephon Gilmore if you're them.
Not a bad idea, honestly. And we know Mike Tomlin loves his veterans. We talked about this with Matt Verderame a little bit earlier and wondering if it's going to have any impact on Rashee Rice. And I sort of agree that you could theoretically say, well, this is very serious. The police were involved, personal conduct violation. There were charges, 8-game suspension. I think that could make sense. I think Matt was also right in saying, go look at NFL history, modern NFL disciplinary history. You kind of have to treat everything as an individual case. Because I saw this today and I thought, oh, well, shoot, maybe that's what the Chiefs should be preparing for. Frankly, I would say that's what the Chiefs should prepare for, is to miss him for 8 games. Rashee Rice I'm talking about here. And then if you get him back earlier than that, so be it. You're in a better spot. By the way, the cornerback room for the Steelers.
I just looked at that.
Yeah, Joey Porter Jr., good player. I like Joey Porter Jr. What do you know about Grayland Arnold?
Nothing.
What about Corey Trice Jr.?
No, that's new to me. Beanie Bishop.
West Virginia.
Yeah, oh, that's true.
That's true,
Beanie Bishop
yeah.
is from West Virginia. Yeah, that's kind of ugly. Not a lot going on. I think Stephon Gilmore will make a lot of sense there. Spencer.
Yeah.
All right, that's going to do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to take a break. We'll come back and tell you which professional sports team is going to stream its games locally for free next season, and wonder whether it could work for other teams that are about to get off the Bally Sports carousel. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. .534 and 580 Sports Talk. In just a moment, we are going to debut a new segment called Name That Guy. Very excited to play this game.
I have not listened to it. I have pulled up a file of game show music. It is not the same music we have for Is It Good?
Thankfully.
Which, by the way, we haven't played Is It Good in a while. We got to get that back. Anywho, we'll see how good it is, how good this music is, but we'll be prepared to give a full intro to Name That Guy.
We did play Is It Good when you were...
Yeah, when you were on
vacation.
vacation, we did play Is It Good?
Oh,
Yes.
okay, well.
That was my first introduction, I think, to Is It Good.
Yeah, that was the first time. He watched me do the dance and was mystified, utterly mystified. The Is It Good dance.
It's
anyway.
so good. Well, then never mind. I'm an idiot.
This is good and very interesting for the future of local sports broadcasting rights. We're all familiar with the regional sports network model and how that appears to be crumbling beneath the feet of basically every team in Major League Baseball, the NBA, and the NHL. Well, the Dallas Stars of the National Hockey League have announced today the launch of a new streaming service, Victory Plus, which is very optimistic for a team that has only won one Stanley Cup in the franchise's history.
But I would like to emphasize, too, it's not just Victory Plus, it's Victory.
All
it's
caps.
in all caps for some reason.
All capitals, no Alex Ovechkin. All capitals, Victory Plus. And Victory Plus will air all Dallas Stars games going forward. And fans in the Stars' local broadcast territory. Now, I don't know what that means necessarily, what the local broadcast territory is. If that's just like Greater Dallas. No, it's the regional territory. Regional territory. So Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas.
Wow.
Like an Edward Sharpe song.
And those fans will be able to stream all Dallas Stars games for free $99, no charge. Now, fans outside the viewing area can only watch ancillary content, cannot watch live games. The service will be free and supported by ads for all users. It's been launched in partnership with a parent media company, APMC. You may be familiar with them if your kids like Dude Perfect. They're involved with the streaming product for Dude Perfect. Anyhow, this is a free ad-supported service, and a 7-year deal has been signed to make this work over the course of 7 years. So for all the years we've talked about, offering fans a streaming option to watch their favorite local teams, what would you be willing to pay? Like right now, Bally Plus is $20 a month, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to pay if you are in market for the Kansas City Royals and you want to stream Royals baseball, but you don't have cable and Bally's not available on like YouTube TV or Fubo or any of those options. If you want to watch the Royals and not pay for cable, that's your option. Bally Plus, $20 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what if it were free? And the Stars are asking that question. What if we just gave it to our fans and we sold enough advertising to make it worth our while on our end, but we just gave it to our fans? What if we just gave them our games on streaming television?
So this is my question about, because I think this is good. This is trending in the right direction. And I love they call them fast channels, free ad-supported television. I watch the Mystery Science Theater 3000 channel almost every single day. And there's no DVR, and you can't rewind live TV or anything, but it is free. It's built into my Vizio TV. There's a button on the remote that says watch free, and there's 1 million channels you can watch. And some of them are really good, some of them are terrible, but I love the product. It's like what cable once upon a time. Will this be accessible anywhere but Victory Plus? That's my question. Like, is there still going to be a TV channel somewhere that airs it?
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's a fair question. Like local television is still where people are going to tend to want to go to watch the games. Like if there's a channel on, like if they get a deal for carriage rights with the cable company, with Comcast or with Dish or DirecTV, then I think this is really interesting. If it's just a streaming component, then you're going to have a portion of your audience that struggles to comprehend how to use. Like I think more people are comfortable with streaming than maybe we are willing to give credit for.
Yeah,
but I also think that's a real consideration. Is how much your potential audience are you boxing out if you are just on the stream? The other question too is what kind of revenue you're going to do. Like are you going to do enough revenue? Because I don't know what the average NHL cable deal is, but I know like Major League Baseball teams were getting like 30 to even the teams in smaller markets were getting like 30 to 50 million a year. And obviously that's more inventory. So for a baseball team, if they were going to do this, they would have to sell a lot of ads to make up for that 30 to 50 million a year that you're not getting from Bally or whomever it is anymore. You better sell a lot of ads. Otherwise, you're still going to probably stick with a subscriber model to try and make up the balance of that money.
If this is set up like the way Major League Baseball has set up the broadcasting rights for the teams that lost their Bally contracts or were kicked off their Bally contracts, whatever. So the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, the Padres, is there someone else too, or just those three?
No, it's just those three.
Just those three. Where you can buy the MLB plus MLB TV package in market and watch your favorite teams in market for $20 a month or whatever it is through MLB TV. But also they have a deal with, I know it's Channel 4 in San Diego, and there's another local channel somewhere in the Inland Empire where you can watch it. And on DirecTV, Channel 6011 is the Padres channel. And all they do is stream the Padres game live if you have DirecTV. If this is something like that, awesome, great. That is the way to do it. Make it more accessible. Support it with commercials. That's fine. Put some. Everyone runs a ticker now. Everyone's got a bottom line in all their broadcasts. Bally has one that's ugly. You can put an ad on that. If that's how you got to support it, air more commercials, whatever, fine. Support it that way. That is good for the consumer. I would just want to make sure, and like I can go find a stream. It's annoying, but I can go do it. I would want to make sure that there is an option to still watch the game via a more traditional method, if at all possible.
So this isn't actually the first team to do so. Now, I don't know if it actually happened, but last year at around this exact time, I remember seeing something similar, and that was the Suns and Mercury. They're moving forward with a free over-the-air TV deal.
That's right. Matt Ishbia wanted to do something with that.
Yeah.
The owner of the Suns.
Slightly different because it's not a streaming, but it's
Right.
free over-the-air
Yes,
because of the Bally Sports.
Yeah,
system.
just making sure that there is local distribution
Yeah.
of their games. And even the teams like we talked about, like the Padres, the Rockies, the Diamondbacks, the Major League Baseball have tried to get a channel. Like there's a channel on DirecTV
Right.
in the Denver area that's just like Rockies, and it just shows the games.
Mhm.
And you go over there when the game is on, and you watch the game. But to have a free streaming service offer the games, Vance asked the question in the YouTube live chat. They're actually caring about the average fan. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just giving it to the average fan. Here, watch us. Watch the game. Because they're betting that, okay, you watch one, and hockey successfully makes this bet a lot more often than not. We get you in the door,
Uh-huh.
you're going to come back.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to come back for more hockey.
I do think in this situation of one of the few things I retained from my sophomore year of high school when I took economics. I remember Tinstoffel. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I also remember being told if you're getting something for free, then you are the product, which is a pretty cynical way to look at things. But by the same time, I just want to watch the games. I don't care.
Yeah.
I will be the product for these mega corporations as long as I can watch the damn game.
We've asked the question for years. What would you pay to watch the Royals? What would you pay monthly? What would you pay annually? I think everybody here would pay nothing. I think everybody here would be thrilled if there was an option to pay nothing and just pick up your phone or download an app on your Roku, your smart TV, or just turn on your computer and you could watch the Royals play baseball on an ad-supported model. Now, again, with baseball, the question is, are you going to make enough revenue with the ads to cover for all the revenue that you are going to lose? That's a question for the bean counters. But I think this provides a model moving forward. If this is successful for the Stars, I think there will be other teams that adopt it. And I hope one of them is the Royals. We'll take a break. We're going to come back. Trenton's going to lead us through our first rendition of Name That Guy on 580 Sports Talk. .545 on 580 Sports Talk. We are excited, honored, privileged, eager to bring you a brand new game that Trenton Craxter, our producer engineer, has decided to be the quiz master of. It's very simple. We get the playing resumes of a former, or I guess maybe active too, I haven't looked at the list, professional athlete, and then we have to name the guy.
All right.
That's why that game is called Name That Guy.
No, that's not it.
No, that's not.
No, that's a whiff. Okay, that picks up a little bit.
All right, got it. Got it.
That echo was sick.
Yeah,
what was the echo?
That ruled.
I don't know, but it worked.
Yeah, that was awesome. A+ for everybody.
All right. So,
Innovation continuing.
so Trenton's got guys. He's going to give us their resumes, and we're going to see who can name the guy the fastest.
All right.
Do you have to buzz in or do we just yell?
We think we just yell.
Okay, all right.
Okay. We'll start with the NFL player. Started with the Titans from 2009 to 2012. The St. Louis Rams and Los Angeles Rams, 2013 and 2015. Green Bay, 2016. Oakland, 2017 and 2018. The Saints, 2019 to 2020. And the Chargers in 2021.
Jared Cook.
That is correct.
See, putting a Packer on
Let's
there
go.
was cheating.
Michael Wilhoit's least favorite player.
The 1 year.
Hey, he had a hell of a catch against the Cowboys.
Yes, he did. He's a very memorable one-year
Yes,
Packer, as those
extremely.
things go.
Especially because we replaced him with Martellus Bennett. That didn't go so well.
Marty B. Marty Soros Rex.
That went better for other teams than it did in Green Bay.
Yes, no, it most certainly did.
All right.
All right, that was our NFL one. We had a Packer in it, so naturally Brendan got it first. 1 point to Brendan.
All right. Major League Baseball player. Milwaukee, 1988 to 1991. San Diego Padres.
Gary Sheffield.
San Diego, 1992 and 1993. The Florida Marlins, 1993 to 1998. The
Gary
Dodgers.
Sheffield.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to read his resume, though.
Okay.
The Dodgers, 98 to 2001.
Done.
Sorry.
Atlanta, 2002 2003. The Yankees, 2004 2006. The Tigers, 2006 2008. And the Mets in 2009. What gave it away?
Milwaukee to San Diego.
Okay.
That early in his career, like there was no doubt Gary Sheffield was going to be a superstar from the get-go, but kind of a miserable person.
Yes.
Particularly young Gary Sheffield. And so Milwaukee could not wait to be rid of him, and they traded him to San Diego. And I think he won like a batting title like immediately. They gave him away. They traded him for three gentlemen named Ricky Bones, Matt Miesky, and Jose Valentin.
Ricky Bones not becoming the most famous player in baseball is a travesty.
Who?
Ricky Bones.
There's a bunch of who's right there.
It might be Bonez, but
I'm going with Bones.
I think, yeah, I like Ricky Bones.
That'd be the guys you get on an immaculate grid. That'd be like a 0.01.
Yeah, no kidding.
This guy I think Gary Sheffield's a Hall of Famer.
I do too.
2,689 hits, a 292 lifetime average, 509 home runs, 1,676 RBI. Gary Sheffield rocked. And he had the stance. He had that,
with the bat wave. Oh,
yeah, like it was a toothpick in his hands.
Ruled.
I used to imitate that all the time, man. That was, batting title in 92 with the Padres. An all-star 9 times. Yeah, that's a Hall of Famer to me, even if he wasn't a nice guy. So, Gary Sheffield.
All right, who's
1
next?
point to Dan. What's next?
All right, NBA.
Hold on. We have to wait until.
Yeah.
Yes,
We'll play Jeopardy rules.
Yes,
Yes.
we'll play Jeopardy rules from now on. I'm sorry, I got really excited and I jumped the gun.
All right,
Go ahead.
We'll go to the NBA. Golden State Warrior, 2010 to 2011. New York Knicks, 2011-2012. Houston Rocket, 2012-2014. Los Angeles Lakers, 2014 to 2015. Charlotte Hornet, 2015-2016. Brooklyn Nets, 2016-2018. Atlanta Hawks, 2018-2019. And Toronto, 2019.
Jeremy Lin.
That is correct.
Whoa!
Lynn
Oh,
Sanity.
the only reason I know this is because when I was on a Southwest flight for Memorial Day weekend, Lynn Sanity, the documentary, was a free documentary, so I watched it.
How quick we forgot about Lynn Sanity.
There's a
Yeah.
really good one. I think it's on Max called 38 at the Garden.
Yeah.
About Jeremy Lin
That
and
might
the
have
whole
been it.
Lynn Sanity. Right? Yeah, really good.
That might have been honestly been it. I don't
Yeah,
know. It was
really-
just a documentary.
Really
about
good. It's like an hour long. It's
Man.
good documentary.
What a story.
So we're all on the board. So the tiebreaker, we're going to the pucks.
Oh, God. All right.
I don't know because he's played for Colorado and Washington. So
I know who this is.
I also know who this
all
is.
right. Well,
I think I know who
All
this
right, give us the clues.
sorry, Brendan.
No, that's all right. I saw NHL and I knew I was cooked.
Colorado 2010 to 2011, the St. Louis Blues 2011 to 2017, the Capitals in 2017, the Rangers 2017 to 2019, Tampa Bay in 2019, Anaheim 2020 to 2023, and the Bruins this past year.
Kevin Shattenkirk.
Yep, Kevin Shattenkirk. Yep.
That is correct.
We were gonna share the honors.
Oh, I didn't know. We didn't
We
coordinate
both-
that.
No!
We didn't
That's
at
like
all.
that's like when people were cheering for the Chargers and Raiders to tie.
The only reason I know this is because the Capitals were all in 2017 and they traded for him at the deadline. And then
It didn't work.
it didn't work. And then they won the cup next year without him.
I,
He was
I,
on the Rangers.
I remember young Kevin Shattenkirk, a well-regarded prospect with the Avs, traded to St. Louis. That was the Eric Johnson trade. And Eric Johnson came over to Colorado and was a mainstay for a decade. I think that was the Eric Johnson trade.
I have heard the name Kevin Shattenkirk. That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, solid stuff. Everybody on the board. Spencer wins on a technicality because we didn't coordinate, but Spencer's our winner. Name that guy.
Hey.
Hey.
Well done.
That was good.
Well done. That was.
Are you a big Immaculate Grid player?
I used to play during school a couple of times, but not like during class, but
Okay.
we'd play Immaculate Grid and NBA grids and stuff like that. But I haven't done it in a long time. But I was telling Dan, we at the UDK meetings, the University of Kansas meetings, Monday morning, then we incorporated into the KJHK meetings. People would make a Jeopardy, a sports Jeopardy, and put down some of their knowledge and trivia and stuff. And it would always be just so fun. And then you get in conversations with people like, well, you remember this guy? What do you know about this guy? And it goes from there. Like, what do you remember about Laquavante Gonzalez from KU in like 2014?
Quiv!
I remember that Laquiviante Gonzalez stole team dude gear from the football facility and got suspended. And he was so fast and he had hands like rocks. Couldn't catch anything, super fast, stole t-shirts.
Outside of the stealing part, that reminds me of Tanaka Scott from this last year.
Yeah. Oh, man. He transferred in from Texas A&M, and I remember thinking, oh, my God, David Beatty, genius recruiter. This man knows what he's doing. And it turns out I was wrong, and David Beatty absolutely did not know what he was doing, even remotely.
I got
Quiv.
Big Quiv. I think I might have been the only person who ever called him that. I got a 25 on my rarity score in the baseball Immaculate Grid today.
Well done.
And a 21 on the football grid, which is very rare. I get a better score in the football grid, but the football grid had the Chiefs and the only one team category. So that's like a cheat code for me.
The cheat for that.
I also had a Washington category. Quick, Spencer, give me a commander and a dolphin.
Jason Campbell.
Reggie Roby, the punter.
Nice.
That's
Did Jason
gonna-
Campbell play for the Dolphins?
You got me there. I don't think so. I think he played for the Browns after that and he called it a career.
That was Name That Guy. The final word is next to wrap up 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Spencer, what you got?
I got that things are changing around here. I wasn't able to join the show from the beginning, but a lot of things are changing. I'm learning some new stuff, and it's actually kind of interesting. So that's my final word.
Excited for you and for all of us. Like
Yes.
everything that is happening around here that may again result in a different look or a different sound of this show is all for the betterment of 580 WIBW for Alpha Media Topeka, and the changes are going to be positive things that you guys notice elsewhere and then ultimately here as well.
Final word for me today. I want to go back to our Big 12 coaching tiers from earlier on in the show. I'm really high on the coaching overall in the Big 12. I think it's a really good league this year of quarterbacks and of coaches long-term as well. I think all certainly positive things, unless you are the head coach at Cincinnati or Baylor, in which case I hope that you did not put a down payment on a house. And I also hope that you know a good mover.
Final word for me today. I played golf on Friday morning, and I shot an 88 at Village Greens up in Ozaki, and I played fine. And then I see a story like this, and it makes me think I should just quit the sport altogether. A young man by the name of Evan Kane playing in a Kansas Junior Tour event at Teradyne Country Club in Wichita today. 8th hole, par 3, pitching wedge, hole in 1. Hole 12, par 3, 8 iron, hole in 1.
Wow.
This kid made 2 holes in 1 in the same round. Shout out to Evan Kane for making me feel terrible about my golf game. And I assume having a pretty great day for himself out on the links. Good stuff, Evan. That's going to do it for this edition of 580 Sports Talk. We'll be back tomorrow. Big 12 Media Day start tomorrow. We'll hear from Brett Yormark. We'll hear from Chris Kleiman. We will preview the Royals 2-game I-70 series against the St. Louis Cardinals as well. For Spencer, Brendan, Trenton, I'm Dan from the Kansas Drive to Zero studios. It's 580 Sports Talk.